guys, welcome back to Masters of the Cinematic Universe. I'm Joe. Over there is Doug. Over there is Eric. And we today are getting into the Old West, which actually isn't that old. It's actually kind of the new Old West.
It's
the last of the Old West. It's the death throes of the Old West is what it is.
It's the 90s take on the Old West.
It's called Tombstone, baby.
Oh, yeah. What do you want on your tombstone?
Pepperoni. I'm sorry. I couldn't resist a dad joke, man.
That's the perfect answer. Are you kidding me?
Low-hanging fruit.
I was hoping one of you would get the reference.
Let's just get this out of the way first, okay?
Whoa, who the fuck's that?
Oh,
right.
Hi, I'm Will.
Hey, that's Will.
This isn't my show.
Right, so we're not going to sit around and talk about random bullshit for an hour.
Three-quarters of the people.
Yeah, that's pretty much.
That's true.
Actually, it's more like 3.9 quarters of the people.
It's like my show, but better.
We can't
missing?
seem to shake each other.
I don't know.
What's missing?
Something
Something's
seems
missing.
different.
Yeah.
Something seems different. I don't know what it is.
I don't know. Anyway.
The air is lighter.
So the question of the day, the question of the episode.
Yes.
What's better, Tombstone or Young Guns?
Oh, it's not. There's not even a fucking question. That's a silly question, is what that is. Come on.
Okay,
Ooh,
answer.
defensive.
Lightning round answer. Doug, go.
Tombstone.
Eric?
Now that I've seen Tombstone, I'm going to say Tombstone.
Joe?
Westworld.
You're all wrong. The answer is Young Guns 2. Continue.
No, those are enjoyable movies. There's no question
Horseshoe
about
Boogaloo.
that. I love them both. Wow.
Almost choked him
Starting
on
off
water.
with a bang.
Horseshoe Boogaloo.
So, guys,
Yeah.
anyone got anything new going on in their world? Anything awesome in your life?
Well, I mentioned off air that I'm getting my first Fauci ouchie on Tuesday. I'm getting round 1 of corona vaccine, and I'm very excited about it actually.
Nice.
Because I need a little bit more freedom. I know I need a little bit more freedom in my life. I'm not going to go run around naked with no mask on, but
you'd be fucking
because that would horrify the
before you know
neighbors.
it, Doug.
Exactly, but I need to be able to venture out every now and then. I'm going on a year since I've been in my office at work. Not that I'm going back, but this is a good first step, so I'm very excited about it. Yeah.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Well,
Glad
guys,
you made it.
My venture into Bitcoin is now I've lost 48 cents.
Fucking high roller. With
That's
your
great.
I hate that PayPal made so you can buy cryptocurrency on PayPal now. Because I had to try it out, so I got the $20 option, and I'm down to $19.52.
I love it. Have you heard about this Dogecoin thing?
The dog.
Yeah.
Dogecoin. Yeah. Well, no, I mean, it started off at less than a penny. It's up to 6 cents now, and the goal is to drive it to $1. So if you buy in at 6 cents, you get up to $1. You could do something with that. I'm just saying, even if it's only some beer money.
Yeah,
you're investing in something that's not going to cost you much. What's that?
I'm using PayPal for this, so I can't. I got Bitcoin.
Oh, you're limited,
Litecoin,
yeah.
Ethereum, or Bitcoin Cash. Which
Oh,
apparently
okay.
is using Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash.
So what the fuck is a cryptocurrency? Like, can somebody give me the fucking cliff notes of this? Like, I don't get it. Like, what?
Apparently, it's money for nerds.
Okay.
I don't really know, but it's some kind of money that goes up and down in value very fast. That's all I know about it. And you can get it with PayPal.
It's electronic currency. I don't know much about it either, but it's an electronic currency. It's sort of like the digital age's gold standard. You know what I mean? Like people used to deal in the gold standard, they deal in this now.
Right. Can you transfer it into freedom dollars or what?
Yeah, you can cash out just like a stock. That's my understanding anyway.
Yeah, you can cash out. It's actually kind of fun now to just watch it and see if it goes as it goes up and down.
Yeah, I mean, and it's very volatile. It's extremely volatile. It goes up and down.
It's like gambling for people who don't want to actually make bets.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. It's also another one of those things that it's just, I think it's too late to get into.
Yes.
If you would have got in early, there's people talking about with this dog I don't even know if I'm saying it right. I'm like, oh yeah, I got some of that like 5 years ago. I got 52,000 of them, for a penny or whatever. It's like, okay, well, you're gonna do good. I don't know the first thing about this stuff. There's like forums dedicated to it and stuff. It's just I don't understand any of it, man.
Apparently on Reddit you can like buy GameStop. I don't know what the fuck's going on with it, but somehow GameStop is like worth a shit ton of money or something.
I'm just gonna keep burying my money in my backyard.
It'll reproduce there.
Come take it. Anyway, what's new? Let's see. I have sickness, not the Rona. Thank goodness. But yeah.
No, that's good.
yeah, I got a good old sinus infection and ear infection. So.
Oh man.
I'm in a great mood.
Well, I hope you're excited about talking for 2 straight hours.
I know, right?
At least.
The double ear infection, sinus infection, diarrhea, crazy. Let's dive in.
Hey, Will, didn't you get a promotion?
No. Well, I don't know, man. It's a fucking mess. I'm not sure. Now, there's choices to be made upcoming. Choices to be made.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
On that note, let's get on with the show.
Let's do it.
1879. The Civil War is over, and the resulting economic explosion spurs the great migration west. Farmers, ranchers, prospectors, killers, and thieves seek their fortunes. Cattle drovers turn cow towns into armed camps with murder rates higher than those of modern-day New York or Los Angeles. Out of this chaos comes legendary lawman Wyatt Earp, retiring his badge and gun to start a peaceful life with his family. Earp's friend, John Doc Holliday, a southern gentleman turned gunman and gambler, also travels west, hoping the dry climate will relieve his tuberculosis. Silver is discovered in Arizona. Tombstone becomes queen of the boomtowns, where the latest Paris fashions are sold from the backs of wagons. Attracted to this atmosphere of greed, over 100 exiled Texas outlaws band together to form the ruthless gang recognized by the red sashes they wear. They emerge as the earliest example of organized crime in America. They call themselves the Cowboys.
And there we go. That's the start of Tombstone. That is the legendary Robert Mitchum doing the narration. They had him do that because he was originally supposed to play Pa Clanton, Ike Clanton's father, and Billy Clanton's father, who was also a ruthless prick. But he got hurt, and he couldn't do it. So they had him narrate that instead. Fell off a horse. So they wrote him out of the script and had him narrate it. He was happy to do it. So, yeah. So, yeah, today we're going to talk about Tombstone. It's one of my favorite movies. It's probably top 10 for me, top 15. Absolutely love it. I may have seen this movie more than most any other movie, or, almost any other movie I like or watch. Whenever it's on, the channel stops and I watch it. So that's why I'm doing it anyway. It's a selfish thing, but I think everybody digs this movie as well. Before we get into the story, a couple of quick things, because there is some behind-the-scenes stuff that went on in this with this movie. It was written by Kevin Jarre, who actually wrote the movie Glory, which is an amazing movie. He wrote the 1999 movie The Mummy, Rambo 2. But he had a bad reputation in Hollywood, and it bit him in the ass a few times. Things just didn't work. He didn't click with the cast, the producer, and they had to let him go. And it turns out that Kurt Russell basically ghost directed this movie to make it work. What he did was he spoke to Stallone, who had a similar problem with the same writer and director in Rambo 2, and ended up doing pretty much the same thing. He hired a director named George Cosmatos, who he was basically, he was there to just do what Kurt told him to do. Kurt Russell would show up at night with the scene shots for the next day and explain to George how he wanted it done, and George did it. And it worked because the movie's great. So I got no problem with it in the end. It's basically a lesson in don't be a dick, and you'll keep your job. So, not a bad thing. So after that narration, by, again, the great Robert Mitchum, we get a shot of the aforementioned cowboys sort of riding, through the desert towards the camera. And then the title, Tombstone, comes up across the screen. We see them enter a town in Mexico. They show some scenes, some cuts in this scene with the local inhabitants of this town setting up for a celebration. It's a wedding. Looks like one of the federales, one of the Mexican police, married the love of his life, and they're ready to celebrate. As they exit the church after the nuptials, they're confronted by a group of the cowboys. It's led by Curly Bill Brocious. He is the leader of the gang. That's the great Powers Booth. He's another great character actor. He's done a ton of movies, Red Dawn and Sin City. He was in the Marvel Universe. He played one of the quote powers that be that everyone had to answer to. So he's a very recognizable voice and physically imposing person. He's the leader. So he sort of introduces
powers.
All right, we're not going there.
Come on. Ask me who my first favorite Powers is.
It's Kenny fucking Powers. That's who it is. Of course
Kenny
it is.
fucking Powers.
That's right, baby. Yeah. Oh, man. I you know what? I don't have much of a problem with that. Kenny Powers is a cool dude.
Hell yeah.
So, yeah, he, it's funny. I love the way Powers Booth plays this character. He's almost never not happy. In whatever he's doing, whether he's drinking, playing cards, or killing people, he's always happy. He's got this little chuckle that he does with his tongue half sticking out, and everything's a game to him. Everything's fun, as ruthless and deadly as he is. Powers Booth, he definitely did that right. If that was his idea, kudos to him, because he did it right. So he holds up a couple of red sashes, that, again, as Mitchum mentioned, they are the sort of the signature of the Cowboys. Holds them up, and, he mentions that y'all killed 2 cowboys. That doesn't go well with that group. As soon as he says that, they start shooting, all of them. And, again, almost to a man, they're all enjoying this. They're gunning down these Mexican police. They're dropping like flies. It's a complete massacre, and they are hooting and hollering and laughing and shooting. And, there's really not much redemption in this bunch. They just like doing what they're doing. So Curly Bill, he decides to introduce himself to the remaining soon-to-be dead people, and he just lays it out and says, "I'm what you might call the founder of the feast." He lets them know he started it all. They all listen to him, and if you cross him, you're fucked. That's the bottom line with it. The cool thing about this movie that I dig is there's so many recognizable faces as far as actors and actresses go. A lot of actors.
Insane cast.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's like Band of Brothers. If you watch Band of Brothers, the number of actors that got their start in that series, it's the same thing here. Some of these actors were established, but others were new or early in their careers. But Michael Biehn from Terminator and Aliens. Who else do we got? We got Stephen Lang, great character actor, Avatar, and the list goes on with him. Thomas Hayden Church from Wings, love that dude. He's a great character actor. He's been in a bunch of movies, Sideways and We Bought a Zoo, things like that. John Corbett.
Let's not forget the uncredited Billy Bob Thornton.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, no, yep, we'll get to him.
When I was watching
but yeah,
I was like, "Is that Billy Bob Thornton?"
Yeah,
and
then
I
couldn't tell either, man.
I went to look it up. I was like, "Well, he's not on the IMDb," but that was clearly Billy Bob Thornton.
Oh no, it was. That was kind of out of shape, tubby Billy Bob.
Yeah.
That was a couple of years before he wrote the screenplay for Sling Blade. So he was very up and coming.
Nice.
So yeah, I mean that's part of the mystique of this movie for me is that so many recognizable faces. It's crazy, So, yeah, Curly Bill introduces himself.
I was excited to see Michael Rooker.
Right.
I was excited
exactly.
to see Dana Delaney.
Yeah, Dana Delaney's. That's good. I'm glad they used her. But yeah, Michael Rooker too. Another one. He was in there. He was the only one.
Michael Rooker.
And we get to this throughout the movie. He was the only one that wasn't taking joy in what was going on. He was already having seeds of doubt in his head, and we'll explore that a little further down the road. But he was the only one.
Poppins, y'all.
Yeah, exactly. So, Curly Bill introduces himself again as the founder of the feast. The priest, who's still alive at this point, he goes off in Spanish. Basically, no one understands what he's saying, except Florentino, the basically lone, Latino or Mexican from in the crew. But as we learn, his Spanish is worse than his English. The priest lays out his intentions, and basically he's cursing these men to hell in a biblical sense. But Florentino, he doesn't understand what's going on. He talks about revenge and, a sick horse, and, we get our first glimpse of Johnny Ringo, the true psychopath of the group, which will, that'll come to light as we move on. And he just, he says, "You ignorant wretch." I mean, your English, your Spanish is worse than your English. So we're not quite sure, unless you speak Spanish, what the priest has said yet. So some of the cowboys grab the bride, who's still alive, and they bring her off into the church, and we know what's going on there. Though not long after she's in there's a gunshot, so it might have been quick. But, these guys are animals. There's no question about it. So they sit down to eat the feast that was intended for the celebrants of this wedding. And, the cowboys are hungry. They start diving in. The priest comes back for more, and he starts in again. And Johnny Ringo demonstrates his psychopathic tendencies and just immediately shoots him in the head. He doesn't even give him a chance. This even shocks Curly Bill, and that's surprising. Like, everybody's shocked by this. Not that they wouldn't kill a priest, but just with the cold-bloodedness that Johnny does this, sort of takes them all back a bit. So it's definitely ruthless.
That whole scene reminds me of something that would have been in an episode of Westworld, like season 1.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, and it was in a way. The massacre it is similar to that. It's just a bloody massacre in this case, and the intention of the writer and in this case, Kurt Russell and the director, was to just demonstrate the absolute, amoral code of the cowboys. This is what they did. This is how they got the job done.
And just to be clear, back then, cowboy doesn't mean the same thing it means now.
No.
That what we think of as cowboys were actually cowhands back then.
Right. Cowpokes are, yes, exactly. A buckaroo was more of what they were, but they used the term cowboy. So at this point, Curly Bill, he wants to know what that priest said to him. So he asks Ringo to translate, because Ringo, we're learning quickly, is a very learned man. So Joe, roll it.
Hey, Johnny, what that Mexican mean a sick horse is gonna get us, huh?
It's quoting the Bible. Revelations. Behold, a pale horse. The man who sat on him was death. And hell followed with him.
So basically, that's a reference to the apocalypse, the 4 horsemen.
Yes, exactly.
The pale horse was the one ridden by death.
Death being the leader of
which
the
would have
4
been
horsemen.
accompanied by pestilence, war, and famine.
Yes. Yep.
But
the
majority of that I learned from reading Good Omens.
There you go. Me too. The thing about that, it's obviously a straight up foreshadowing of what's to come for the Cowboys. There's we're not beating around the bush when we say this movie is a bit heavy-handed in its foreshadowing and its indication of things to come. And I have no problem with that. It's fine with me. But yes, they beat you over the head with some of their indications, and it's all good in the end.
So I'm not big on terminology in my brain, but is this a horse opera, a spaghetti western? What would this be classified as?
This is. Let's call it a horse opera. All right, it's definitely not a spaghetti western. Right. That's a completely different animal. I
don't know the differences in these things. I just want to know which one this would fall into.
All right, yeah, this is a horse opera. We'll go with that, Joe.
All right, I like horse opera. That just sounds fun.
Yeah,
like I can imagine a theater with like a bunch of horses sitting in there, and then there's like one horse dressed like a Valkyrie going like, oh, 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 oh. Like that's what a horse opera seems like to me.
Okay, you're right. I think you nailed it. We're on to something. Get the pens out. We're writing the screenplay.
They vote. They're like, "Did you guys like that?" And they're all like, "No," and they're like, "The nays have it."
Wow. This is almost as bad as the pedophile.
Yeah, I
know. Wait, are you predicting the future? Because that's next episode.
Oh, yeah.
That's true. Right. There may or may not be a reference.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, exactly. So as Johnny Ringo finishes that translation, we hear a train whistle, and it transitions to a train arriving in the train station at Tucson, Arizona. And again, this goes directly to what Johnny said about hell coming with him. Because we watch a pair of legs, stroll down the train steps, and it pans up, and we've got Kurt Russell in all his handlebar mustached glory, looking stoic as Wyatt Earp. He's on to his next big adventure, and he's excited about it.
I've spent a majority of my adult life thinking and totally shitting on Kurt Russell about this role.
I was going to ask you, yes.
And, having watched it twice through in preparation for this, it's really not as bad as I remembered it being.
Okay.
Like, I don't know why. Like, I mean, was it great? No. But I feel like I give it more credit now. I give him more credit now for his portrayal of the role. And I will say, if you look at historical photos, he's actually fairly close, like a resemblance.
He does.
It's definitely there.
He does. And honestly, it's funny, Will, you saying that, watching it back now. So, I mean, again, I'm not joking when I say I've watched this movie at least 50 times, all right? It's ridiculous, but I have. But I watched it 2 times this week, okay? And I can more respect your opinion after watching it and interpreting it and analyzing it. Because I likened it to, and again, thinking about what you had previously, when we had conversations about Kurt Russell, I likened it to Hamilton, right? If you watch Hamilton, the weakest link in Hamilton is Lin-Manuel Miranda. The guy who created it is the weakest link performance-wise. He's good. He's very good, but he doesn't hold a candle to the rest of that cast. He knows that. He's admitted it publicly. Kurt Russell was the same. He might be the weakest link in a great movie. But that's not to say he's a weak link. He's just not the strongest performer in this movie. I've got a special place in my heart for Kurt because growing up, as a late 60s, early 70s Disney kid, he was the golden boy of Disney. I mean, the movies that he was in and the TV shows that he was in. So, again, with me, there's a lot of nostalgia with movies. They're touchstones in my life. So, he's an important touchstone in my life in that sense. But I get it. I get what you're saying. He is possibly the weakest link in this movie. Not to say he's a weak link, but,
This isn't my favorite Western movie he's in either.
Okay, which one?
The Hateful Eight.
Yeah, I don't know. Come on.
That. He actually plays that. He plays it better in that movie.
He was great in it. He was great in that movie.
He does. Well, he's mature.
I'm not a Kurt Russell hater, man. Like, I like Kurt Russell.
No, I get it.
I like him in this, too, but he plays the character better in that movie because he's grizzled.
I agree.
He's got more years on him.
Well, he's matured as an actor, too.
I'll say for my money, Val Kilmer stole the show for me in this movie. I'd never watched this before. This was my first viewing of Tombstone.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
And
Really?
and my Val Kilmer experience is pretty limited. Now that I'm thinking about it, for me growing up, it was his turn at Batman, which was what it was.
Shitty.
Yeah, very shitty.
He did what he could with that.
But man, like the acting chops on this cat in this movie, and I'm sure Doug's gonna go into it, but just the mannerisms and the sweat, the tuberculosis, like
exactly,
come on, blew me away, Val Kilmer.
Exactly.
What's funny is he reminded me of someone else, and I can't think of who it was. Like the entire time I'm watching him, like now it's probably someone else playing like him, but
I would say Johnny Depp. Like he had shades of Johnny Depp going on in this role.
Did you watch The Umbrella Academy?
Yeah.
The guy that was like the drug addict guy in that show?
Yeah.
He kind of reminds me of
he could. If they did a remake, he could be, yes, 100%.
Yeah.
Yes, because, Val Kilmer, he lent a sophistication to the role, which was needed because the real, Doc Holliday, the real John Holliday he was a dentist. He was well-educated. He was a Southern man. And Val Kilmer delved into that. He really researched Doc Holliday. Fortunately, there's a ton of material on the guy. And what he did with this role is absolutely amazing. But funnily enough, that role almost went to Willem Dafoe.
Oh, that would have been terrible.
It would have been awful. And the only reason that he was not cast is the movie studio, because The Passion of the Christ came out right before this flick.
Yep, and this was a Disney movie.
Exactly. The movie studio said, no way, we are bringing that controversy into this movie. It's not happening. And he was squashed, and then they brought Val Kilmer in. So luckily enough, because the movie would have fell apart. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It would not have been the classic that it is. And I love Willem Dafoe. It's just not his thing. This particular role was not his thing.
No one else could have done this and done it justice.
I would like to say, like in reference to Kilmer's performance, as a native Tennessean, his southern accent's a little bullshit.
It's supposed to be a Georgia aristocratic type thing.
Right.
Yeah, but I understand what he's going for, but I know people who actually talk like that.
Right.
It's shitty.
Yeah. No, I get it. I respect that. I do. But yeah, he's the coolest in this movie, and obviously I'll gush about him as we go on.
He does have, and I'm sure we'll get to it later, but he does have one of my favorite lines in any film ever in this movie.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, what else is a cool bit of trivia is all of the mustaches are real. They all grew the mustaches out for this movie.
Nice.
Except for Behan.
Yeah, because he came from another movie where he had just shaved or something.
He was going to start production on another movie while this was still going, and he couldn't do that, so they gave him a fake mustache.
And this movie is the reason Sam Elliott has his mustache. He kept the mustache after this movie because he liked the way it looked so much.
And it is iconic. It dwarfs all of the mustaches ever grown.
That is a man's
by
mustache.
Anybody, living, dead, real, or fictional. Okay. It's him. It's Sam Elliott. I can't imagine that man without a mustache. But Wyatt steps down off the train. He's looking around, surveying the land. Again, excited about his new adventure. He's retired from peacemaking and marshaling, and he's got a new endeavor. He's gonna set forth on with his brothers. We get a look into his mindset when he sees his horse being mishandled by some dumb handler. It's whipping him with a big rolled up piece of cloth. He grabs the guy. He grabs the cloth and he whips him with it and says, "Hurts, don't it?" and tells him to go away. And he takes care of his horse. It's just the man he is. He's no nonsense. He rights wrongs when he sees them. In real life, not so much if you read some stories about Wyatt Earp. He was a bit of a prick. He was a cheater. He cheated at gambling. He ran a lot of brothels. He did some unsavory stuff in real life.
He ran brothels in tandem with being the town marshal.
Yes, exactly. It was a
pretty
business
lucrative.
It was transactional. It was completely
bold move.
transactional with him, as it was with a lot of these characters in real life that you read the background on. He's not the golden boy, virtuous individual that's portrayed in this movie. But you know something? It's all good because all they said is based on a true story, so you can do anything you want. It's all good. He immediately gets approached by two men. They're U.S. Marshals. It's Crawley Drake, played by Gary Clark. He was a great Western character actor. Not somebody I'd know if I didn't look it up, but he was in a ton of Westerns. It's just what he did. He fit the role. He was good in it. And Ed Bailey, who's Frank Stallone. I always laugh. I know Frank Stallone just makes me laugh because he had a career or has a career because of his brother. Good for him. I would have done the same thing. So he's in this, and he's out of his element. You could look at that guy, and Frank's out of his element in this, but he's trying to keep up. But whatever, he's not going to ruin the movie. So they're looking to recruit Wyatt. They know his reputation. Everybody knows Wyatt Earp's reputation, but he shuts them down like instantly. And he does this for the first half of the movie to anybody who asks. He just shuts them down before they even get a word out. It is a cool line. The Mr. Drake, he's like, well, I never saw a rich man didn't wind up with a guilty conscience. And Wyatt's response is beautiful because all he says is, look, I already have a guilty conscience. Now I want the money. So he makes his intentions known. It's real simple. So then we see Virgil and Morgan Earp, and they're on their way to meet their brother Wyatt because they're going to do this adventure together. It turns out in real life there were two more Earp brothers that didn't make the movie. There was a younger brother, Warren. And there was an older brother, James, the oldest. He was older than Virgil. They both participated in the revenge ride that takes place in this movie. Not in the movie, but in real life. They were part of that crew that hunted down the cowboys. But
one of them was eating a sandwich during the shootout at the OK Corral.
Yeah. They didn't make the cut, so that's all right. We see Virgil and Morgan. Two of the other Earp brothers, they see Wyatt, and it's handshakes and hugs all around. They're so happy to see each other. They're so excited. We meet the ladies in their life. Virgil's wife, Allie, is played by Paula Malcolmson, who is in so many things. Like she was actually in Deadwood with Powers Booth. She was in Ray Donovan, Sons of Anarchy, ER, Hunger Games. She's been in a ton of stuff. I love her as an actress, especially in Ray Donovan. Fantastic actress. So this is one of her first roles, I think, first or second role as an actor. So we meet Wyatt's wife, Maddie, and we immediately see she has some issues. Everybody else is really happy. She's nervous and twitchy, and we quickly come to find out that she's got a bit of an addiction to laudanum, which is I looked this up. I kind of knew what it was. I know it was an opium, but apparently it includes all of the opium alkaloids, including morphine and codeine. So this stuff packed a punch, and it was very addicting, and it had her hooks in her big time. This is based on the truth, apparently. She was addicted to it, and she did eventually in her life die of an overdose because of it.
She was his third wife?
Yeah, at that point, she was his third, yeah. And he was only in his 30s. So when we first meet him, he's about 30, 31. So he'd already been married 3 times by that age.
Sounds like Will.
Bingo. Ding, ding. You are correct, sir.
Once you get past 2, you might be the problem. I'm just saying, after the second failure, there's a common denominator there.
Exactly. So we come across what I'll tag as some of the corny scenes in this movie. I understand why they're there, but I could have done without them. The entire crew, or Wyatt realizes they're standing in front of a store window, and you could see the entire crew's reflection in the window.
Yeah, I hated that. I'm like,
it's forced. It was too forced for me, and it's corny.
Yep.
That's my problem with it. It's funny because that's the issue. All of the emotional scenes in this movie, as far as male-female relationships, are forced and awkward.
But they just fucking blow off the end of his marriage.
I know.
It's just it's a footnote at the end of the movie.
Exactly. So,
Maddie died
I
of a
agree.
drug overdose.
Yeah.
Well, that's because he's hanging out with Freckle Canyon.
Right.
My wife was asking me what this movie was about, and I was like, "Oh, it's about this once sheriff type guy trying to justify cheating on his wife for an hour and a half."
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, with this hot redhead with a freckle canyon.
It's definitely a women as
canyon.
Ornaments. It's definitely a women as ornaments movie. It's a guy's movie.
I'm sorry, man. Freckle Canyon got me.
Yeah. So, they're looking in the reflectionist window, and everybody's smiling except Maddie. She's still like twitchy and nervous, and she's just not happy to be, alive. Basically,
She's got the meth mouth.
Yeah, exactly. And they're all thanking Wyatt for putting this all together so they can make their fortunes. They're gushing over Wyatt for doing this. So we quickly get our first reference to his friend Doc Holliday, played by Val Kilmer, as we mentioned. Him and Virgil are talking, and Wyatt just says, "I miss that old Rip," and because it's funny, back then you lost touch with people more, not permanently, just because there's really no way except with telegraph to get in touch with them at that point. Virgil drops the comment, like I said, Wyatt says he misses him. Virgil says, I don't. Because Virgil's a little older. He understands, the volatile nature of Doc and what he can do to people. I guess he doesn't hate him. He's still a friend, but he's wary of him. Again, a nice transition. Doc is mentioned, and then we meet Doc for the first time. He's playing poker with the marshals who had approached Wyatt earlier. I know Bailey's there, so Frank Stallone is there. I'm not sure if the other guy is the same actor. It's hard to tell. But let's just assume that it's the two marshals. They're sitting down in town there. It's not Tombstone. They haven't gotten the Tombstone yet.
I was going to say, I thought this was a different town because,
it could be Tucson. It could be. I don't know, but it's definitely not. It's not because, obviously, the end of the scene that I'll describe, they got to vamoose. They got to get out of there.
Which they take their time vamoosing.
They do. It's a cocky arrogance. It's a arrogance.
It's a slow
and he doesn't take their guns, so it's not like they can't just come out and shoot him.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so we see Doc playing poker with these dudes, and we meet his partner in crime, Kate. She is known in real life. Her Katie Elder, Kate Fisher, Big Nose Kate. Her real name, because she was, I believe, Hungarian, is Maria Isabella Magdalena Haroni. She had a bunch of names. She was a prostitute that Doc consorted with. A very transactional relationship between these two. They love each other as much as two people who don't know how to love, if you want to look at it that way. Everything is a transaction with them. They're making their money together. They're taking money from each other together. Again, reading the real life stories about these two, and especially Kate, she was a mean son of a bitch. There's no other phrase for it. She wasn't a nice person, but they clicked, and they were definitely partners in crime for a long time. So the game, it's definitely a contentious poker game because Doc just keeps winning. He's insulting them as they play. Just busting balls. I mean, because that's what he does. That's what Doc Holliday does. It gets to the point where he loses and he wins, and Ed Bailey just fucking loses it, and he calls him a skinny lunger. And I remember seeing this the first time and then having to look it up. So Doc is referred to as a lunger many, many times in this movie, and it has to do with his condition. He has tuberculosis. As mentioned in the opening narration, that's why he moved to the Southwest, the dry air, hopefully to do his lungs good. So that was a common name back then for somebody who had that condition, as they called him a lunger. So he calls him a lunger, and Doc feigns, that he's insulted, but he doesn't give a shit. He goes on to tease Ed about, we're not friends anymore. I don't know if I could bear it. Just busting his balls. It's awful. It's merciless, and it's beautiful. And that's why we instantly fall in love with Doc Holliday as a character. So Ed reaches for his gun. He claims he's, without those guns, again, you're a skinny lunger. But, Doc does have the guns, and he's fast. So Ed reaches for his, and, Doc's got his two pistols out before Ed's even got his hand on the grip. So, Doc puts the pistols down. Ed thinks he's got the jump on him, and he bum rushes Doc, and Doc stabs him. He doesn't care how it gets done. He puts a knife in his belly. And also in Vintage Doc, he cleans his knife off on Ed's vest before he puts it back. He just wipes it off. He gets the blood off there because he doesn't want to put it away dirty. He walks away. Kate's already scooping all the money off the poker table because they've got this plan from the start. They exit the saloon and they grab all the money off. I think it's a roulette table, if I'm not mistaken. But they grab the stacks of cash. So they're just robbing them blind. And you're right, they are very nonchalant about this. They just mosey on out. They get on the horses and they're on their way.
Let's stop and make out first.
Yeah, that's true. They do that.
Kate, you don't have a bustle on.
Yeah, that's a great line. Now I know why you didn't have a bustle. Yeah, so it's, like I said earlier, they vamoose. We get out of there.
Wait, bustle's definitely just panties, right?
No, it's the thing that makes your ass look big.
Yeah, it holds the dress up. It holds the fabric off the dirt. It keeps the dress.
She didn't need the bustle. She got the
right.
She got her own bustle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah. So we now transition to a scene of the families in their wagon and on the horses. They're heading to Tombstone. So I looked it up. Tombstone's about 70 miles away from Tucson. So I would imagine it would take at least 3 days to get there. So, they just did this quick transition scene to demonstrate that it's going to take a while. They're going to have to stay over a couple of nights and camp out. So they make it to town. They come into the outskirts of town. And I couldn't confirm this, but as they're entering town, 2 guys on horses blow by them really fast. From behind, they look like 2 characters we meet a little later on. This is Turkey Creek Jack Johnson and Texas Jack Vermillion. I think it's them, but they go by so fast. Wyatt can't see them. They don't see him, and they just pass each other by. So in my head, it's those 2 because it makes it cool. I don't know if you guys even noticed that, but it makes it cool for me. So they pass Boot Hill Cemetery. There's a grave plaque in there that's actually the grave plaque actually exists, but nobody knows if it's real or just placed there for tourists. But it says...
Well, there is a real one, but the real one's somewhere else that they copied the...
Oh, okay.
The
all
thing
right.
from it, and then they put a replica one there. But there is a real one that exists in another place. I can't remember where it was exactly, but there is a cemetery somewhere else that has that exact inscription on it.
Yeah, so it says, here lies Lester Moore, 4 slugs from a 44, no less, no more. So they were comedians in the Old West. It was great. And, somebody wrote that for poor Lester who got gunned down. So they get into town.
Find all these epitaphs outside the Haunted Mansion at Disney.
Yes, exactly. So, yeah, it's funny. It's cool. Boot Hill Cemetery is a tourist attraction at Tombstone. I haven't been there. I do want to get there. But because I think it would be fun. The whole town. It's a corny tourist attraction, but I definitely want to do it because of my love of this movie.
There's a Boot Hill in Daytona also cemetery.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
It's right on the main drag. It's weird because you go into Daytona where all the bars are where they're doing Bike Week and stuff.
Right.
And there's this weird cemetery just sitting right there in the middle of all the bars. And it's lifted up too. It's raised 5 feet off the ground.
So are they all are they old graves or is it old?
Older.
Oh, okay. All right.
I'll see if I can find a picture of it in
Yeah.
Have you been there, Eric?
No. I never heard of it.
It's right on the main drag there. I think there's actually a Boot Hill saloon there too.
Huh. That's interesting. I'm sure it was a fairly common name.
Yeah.
For a cemetery back in the Old West.
I'm assuming they did it as a tribute to the movie too, probably.
Yeah, that could be it. You're right. That could be. So
Stevie Ray Vaughan song too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yep.
You know what fascinates me about the Old West, man? I grew up, my mother was obsessed. We watched Westerns, went to all these festivals and all this shit. And I was just surrounded by Old West stuff. The thing that boggles my mind is the point in history where these people that lived this life, this crazy ass brutal life, really kind of overlapped with relatively modern history.
Yes.
Like Wyatt Earp died in the 20s, in the late 20s, and Big Nose Kate died in 1940.
40, exactly.
So
exactly.
I mean, so
it's definitely a cool juxtaposition. I dig that. I completely dig that and understand it.
Damn it! It's Pinewood Cemetery, but it's right across from Boot Hill Saloon.
Oh, okay, all right.
But it's literally directly across the street. But it's this big ass cemetery. It's right where the Pike Week everyone goes.
Huh. Interesting.
I guess I just saw the saloon and assumed that's also what the name of the cemetery was.
A lot of Freckle Canyons at Bike Week in Daytona.
Oh God, so many Freckle Canyons.
That's a band name.
There you go. Yep. So Wyatt gets in. They finally get into town proper. They're pulling up to the Grand Hotel, and up walks the Cochise County Sheriff, John Behan. He's played by John Tenney. He's another character actor. He's been in a lot of different things. You know his face, but maybe not his name. He's the one we referenced who did not grow the mustache because he was in another movie at the same time. So, Wyatt's reputation, once again precedes him. Behan knows who he is. He propositions him about becoming a peace officer, and Wyatt he shuts him down again. And talks about going into business. That's what he's here to do. They're here to make their fortune. Behan's eyes light up, and then he lists his bona fides. Because besides being the sheriff, he's the tax collector, he's the captain of the fire brigade, he's the chairman of the bipartisan anti-Chinese league, and he's on the town lot commission as well. So he can get them 3 cottages for rent really quickly. They'll clean them for free, because he's such a nice guy. We're going to learn a lot about Behan and his underhandedness and ties to the Cowboys. And I honestly think that when he asked Wyatt to sign up, he was looking at it, as much as a transaction and a possible in to grow and quote the empire as anything else. He wasn't really, because we'll learn later he really doesn't give a shit much about the law. He was just looking for some help. And again, if you look at Wyatt's real life, he had no problem helping, more so than in this movie. So then we meet. Next scene, we meet Fred White. He is the local marshal. He's the town marshal. Interesting thing about that, so he's played by Harry Carey Jr., who is no relation to Harry Carey, the Cubs announcer.
That was
they actually spell it. They spell it different too. Harry Carey, the announcer, spells it Caray. But Harry Carey Jr., his father was Harry Carey Sr., who was a staple in the movie community for Westerns and such. And this Harry Carey Jr. got into acting because of his dad, and he did a lot of Westerns as well. The funny thing is, it turns out that Fred White in real life was 31 at the time. He was not an old man.
Yeah.
But they decided to go old for whatever reason. I don't understand why, but, it's cool. Fred's a cool guy. He starts telling, Wyatt and the crew about the Cowboys. They basically run the town because you can see them with the red sashes. There's a few of them out there. 2 of them are talking with Behan, so we see the first interaction between Behan and the Cowboys. So we know they're in cahoots. And his comment sums it up. He says the plain fact is the Cowboys are good for business. They bring money into the town, helps the town flourish and grow. And people don't complain much. They let them pretty much do whatever the fuck they want. This Wyatt takes the opportunity to ask about the saloons in town because that's where the money's made. Fred describes how nice they all are, except for one, the Oriental. It's a beautiful place, but he just sums it up as being a slaughterhouse. And of course, Wyatt hears that, and that's where he makes a beeline to. Because he sees opportunity, because that's what he does. He looks for opportunity when it's there. He heads into the Oriental, and it's dead. There's a few guys in there. We see people in the corner playing a table game. He walks up and introduces himself to the owner, bartender, who laughs when he says he's Wyatt Earp. He doesn't believe him, which is sort of counter to everybody else who meets Wyatt knowing who he is immediately. So, Wyatt asks about what's going on, and Milt, the bartender and owner, describes the problem with the aforementioned Billy Bob Thornton, Johnny Tyler. He strolled in there one day and took over. He's a blowhard bully. Took over the place and started threatening people. Probably killed some, and no one stood up to him. So he took over the gaming, and he takes the money and does what he wants, and no one wants any part of it. So as nice as the place is, they don't go near it. So Wyatt sees him as nothing but a target and an easy target to eliminate. He walks up and just starts to stare down poor old Johnny Tyler. Johnny gets up and he tries his bluster on Wyatt, and it doesn't work.
He just gets bitch slapped.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. I mean, and it's also cool. It turns out that Billy Bob Thornton ad-libbed that whole thing.
Yeah.
The thing about playing cards with my brother's kids, and if you pick that queen again, I'm gonna stick you up that wildcat's ass, because there's a stuffed wildcat with his ass sticking out up on the wall. He ad-libbed that whole fucking scene, which was beautiful, and him and Kurt played off each other. But yeah, I mean, he looks at Kurt and he goes, he sarcastically says, "I'm real scared," and Kurt's like, "Damn right you are," and Johnny's in his head going, "Oh fuck." He knew he was done. And Joe, you're right. He bitch slaps him. He bitch slaps him so bad.
Three separate times.
Yeah, he tries to goad him into pulling his pistol. You pull that smoke wagon. Are you going to pull that smoke wagon, or are you going to stand there and bleed? And Johnny knows he's done. Wyatt grabs him by his ear like a kid and fucking drags him out of that place. And don't you come back ever. He's out the door. And then Wyatt looks, "Hey Milt, how's 25% of the house take sound?" So we're in business. That's the best part of this. It's very cool. And it's interesting. Faro, I had to look it up. It's a pretty easy game to get and understand, but it's definitely way in the house's favor. They lay out one of every card, 13 cards from ace to king. And then they have a deck of 52 cards. And the players basically pick the card that's going to be flipped over next. They place their bets on top of one of the 13 cards. And the dealer draws two cards. The first is the losing card, and the second is the winning card. So if you put your money on the losing card, you lose. If you put it on the winning card, you win. There's other nuances not worth getting into. Listen, I've been to a lot of casinos. I haven't seen it played. I don't think they do it anymore. But back then, it was an easy game to set up and play, so it was popular. And again, it was heavily leaning towards the house as far as the take goes. So, that's what the people do. Where are we? Here we go. So Wyatt, and this is fortuitous that this town's not big, but it's not small. But the Earp brothers are walking by the Oriental just as Wyatt exits. It's very convenient. So he's able to walk right up to him and start telling him how they got an interest in the game. So they're off and running. They're very excited. And now I'm going to throw out an obvious reference to a previous episode. As they're talking, a bunch of cattle run by, and they're not on fire.
It's not a Filipino barbecue?
Nope, no Filipino barbecue here. They are just running cattle. It was just great. I was very pleased because I did not want to see any more burning cattle. Mars Attacks, folks. Well, listen to the episode. It's worth it. So as they're walking and talking, we see behind them Johnny Tyler. He's got a shotgun. And he's coming and coming and coming. They don't see him. At the last second, okay, they're stopping. He's ready to lift that shotgun. And out of nowhere, Doc Holliday comes to the rescue. He screams, "Why, Johnny Tyler, you madcap. Where you going with that shotgun?" My southern accent's worse than his, Will. Okay. But I'm going to do it anyway. Johnny knows who Doc is, so he stops in his tracks. He's shitting himself again. He hasn't even cleaned the last shit from Wyatt, and he's shitting again on top of that shit in his pants.
It's a lot of shit.
It's a lot of shit. All right. The Earps see Doc. They're all happy to see him. I mean, even Virgil, he side-eyes him a bit when they shake hands, but you can see there's a little grin under that walrus mustache. He's happy to see him. You know, they're friends and they like each other. So, you know, they explain, they have a quick conversation about gambling, the difference between gambling and poker and blah, blah, blah. And it's just very jovial, you know, conversation. And then they turn to see that Johnny Tyler's still standing there, dumbstruck with a fucking shotgun in his hand, because then he realizes who beat the shit out of him. So that makes it even worse. There's even more shit coming out now because it's Wyatt Earp. All right? And it leads to this great line.
Johnny, I apologize. I forgot you were there. You may go now.
That's a great line.
It's so beautiful. And the reason I needed to play that is because I should have mentioned this at the start of the episode, but this movie is the most quoted movie in my house. My kids, they've all seen parts of it. My older boys have watched the whole thing, and all my boys have watched the whole thing. And my daughter, just by virtue of sitting with me on a Saturday, has probably seen the whole movie. So this is a line that is used in the house by all of us. Like when we're having a conversation and we want to stop that conversation or just shut somebody down and be a prick, you may go now. Like it just gets dropped in my house all the time, along with like 10 of the lines in this movie.
I could just see a bunch of like Northerners trying to do a Southern accent.
Oh yeah, it's awful. It's awful.
It's worse than me trying to do a New York accent.
Probably, but it's fucking funny. We absolutely roll with it. It's
Doug,
great.
With your thing going on like this, you can go now.
Exactly. But it works. We all get a laugh out of it. We use it on the phone in our conversations now. You know, we'll finish the conversation. You may go now. You know, it's just, it's great.
If you guys keep listening to this episode, I have not yet begun to defile myself.
Exactly. So,
just wait till I talk about Pinocchio.
So, what I think is actually the best part of this scene is that they ask him to put the shotgun down. You know, before he goes, just put the shotgun down. And he doesn't know what to do with it. He tries to hand it to Wyatt. Wyatt goes, no, put it down. He puts it down on the floor, and he says, thank you. He's so fucking shook. He thanks them for beating the piss out of him. Humiliating.
I literally spent 10 minutes trying to figure out if that was Billy Bob Thornton.
Oh God, yeah, no,
because it's not in IMDb.
I know.
Not on there, and I'm like, yeah. God, that's Billy Bob fucking Thornton. I'm like, but he's kind of fat.
Well, that's the thing. As he walks away, you really see the tubby. You see the pre-cut
like Ethan
Billy
Splee.
Bob. Yeah, exactly. So thank you, and he walks away. It's a fucking.
I'm like trying to like find this. I'm like, I want to see the sailboat.
He acted like me when I get pulled over by the cops.
Yes, exactly.
Well, you get a ticket. I'm like, thank you.
Thanking them for charging me money. Exactly. It's
Thank
great.
you guys for doing such a hard, difficult job. Be safe.
Yeah.
Did I ever tell y'all my story about my old truck and the police?
Oh God, I thought you were going to mention a cruise ship. Thank God.
No.
Go ahead.
I had a taillight out in my truck, and I replaced it once, and it just kept going out. Like, so I was like, fuck it. I'm like, it's gonna be out. And then I started thinking about it, and I was like, if I get pulled over for something, I'm more likely, if I'm like polite to them, to get a ticket for like the taillight being out, which is just to go fix it, and then you can throw away the ticket. Basically, you take it to the court and show that you've done the repair. So what I would do is I carried extra bulbs in my glove box. And I told my buddy this, and he thought I was crazy. Like, I'm like, look, if I get pulled over, I'm going to say, oh, I didn't realize my taillight was out, and I have extra ones here. I could replace it right now. But if I get pulled over for something else, I'm going to gamble that there's a chance that I might be able to get out of the bigger ticket because I have the taillight out. So he kept telling me I'm a dumbass and I'm this and that. So one day I'm going down the interstate. I'm passing the truck going about 90. And then, the state trooper pulls me behind me. So I make sure my foot's on that brake as hard as I can because I want that brake light on. The state trooper comes up, and I'm like, hey, sir, how you doing today? And he's like, I'm good, man. He's like, you know how fast you were going back there? I'm like, I was trying to get around that truck. I'm so sorry, sir. I apologize. I was stuck behind some semis, and I wanted to get around them. I should not have done that. And he comes back to his license registration. He comes back about 3 minutes later. He goes, I'm going to tell you what, sir. Since you didn't try to bullshit me, you didn't try to lie to me or anything, I'm going to give you a ticket for your taillight being out.
Oh.
So, as soon as he was out of my sight, I called my buddy and said, "You'll never guess what just fucking happened."
It worked.
I was like, I can't believe this actually worked. I thought this was just me,
it.
with one of my stupid ass ideas that never works. I'm like, it actually fucking worked.
That's great. I like that.
Yeah.
Oh man. All right. So Johnny Tyler says thank you, and he leaves. Tubby Billy Bob. He's gone. We don't ever see him again. But that's fine. So it's sort of the same scene, but up walks Marshall Behan and Wyatt, being the Joker, just being happy to see Doc and wanting to fuck with him. He introduces Doc to Behan. Doc has a built-in aversion to law officials. He hates them. I mean, he's the antithesis of a law-abiding person. So even not knowing who Behan is, as a person, Behan tries to shake his hand and he doesn't even lift it. He goes, "Excuse me if I don't shake hands." He doesn't want to touch him. He doesn't want anything to do with him. Their conversation migrates to how sophisticated a town, how cosmopolitan Tombstone's becoming. And, Wyatt and Behan are talking about a racetrack, and that's going to make us, more popular and more cosmopolitan.
Next San Francisco.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, so Doc sort of tries to bring him down to earth and says, "Come on, guys, this is nothing more than a mining camp." and he was more correct than they were in a lot of ways. But they're fighting it. And Behan goes, we'll be as big as San Francisco in a few years and just as sophisticated. And Doc smirks, and just as that happens, we hear gunshots. They all look up, and a few guys spill out of one of the saloons. One guy raises his pistol. The other guy says, "Don't do it," and the guy does it, and he kills him. They all recognize the two gentlemen as Turkey Creek Jack Johnson and Texas Jack Vermillion. Acquaintances of Wyatt and Doc and the whole crew. They all know him except Behan. They come over and they introduce each other, and it's funny because at one point Doc tells Turkey, better check your ear, Creek, and he pulls his hat off and his ear is he's missing a chunk, and that's because his ear really was missing a chunk. They used that in the movie. He had lost it in some kind of horse accident. So interestingly enough, the guy plays Texas Jack Vermillion. Where's his name? I want to give him credit, but I'm not going to find it. He was actually called the Buckaroo Wrangler for the movie, because he was really he was a living Old West dude in the sense that he embraced that lifestyle. So he was basically a technical consultant, so that the cowboys and everybody would act accordingly, act like someone would back then. So besides getting that role, he doubled as that on set. So that was pretty cool. Marshal Fred comes over. He asks the two of them to hand over their guns. They object a little bit, but not really. He's got to take them before Judge Spicer just to clear the air. That's how things were done back then. Bring them before the judge. They have witnesses. Creek actually says, it was a fair fight. We was legal. And then, the conversation ends with them handing over the weapons and just stating law and order. That's us every time. So, as far as the Old West goes, they were upstanding citizens as much as you could get. They made sure they paid attention to the rules. So here's another, one of my beefs, an awkward scene, just a forced scene. Stagecoach rolls up, and there's a theater troupe in the Stagecoach, and they're going to be performing in town. So they roll up, and the door opens, and first out is the fabulous Mr. Fabian, played by Billy Zane. Back to the Future, one of our previous episodes, he was in that. That was one of his first roles, I believe his second role ever. Obviously, his biggest role is Titanic, and he was the Phantom, one of the old comic book heroes. A bunch of roles. he's sort of blackballed from Hollywood now. I didn't bother looking up why, but apparently he's persona non grata now. He doesn't get many roles.
It was for being in The Phantom.
Yeah, probably. It was so bad that they said no more. That's it. Yeah, so he exits the stagecoach, followed by Miss Josephine Marcus, Dana Delaney. I mean, yeah, Joe already said it. Dana Delaney, she's all right. China Beach, Desperate Housewives.
Those eyes.
Yeah, you know, she's a natural beauty. She really is. Yeah, she's in China Beach back in the day, Desperate Housewives as well, and she's been in a ton of other stuff I haven't watched. I happen to watch those too. I like those shows. Here's an interesting thing. If you read about Josephine Marcus in real life, she was so not that person. She was a hustler and a cheat and a two-timer and a three-timer. She led dual lives. She came and went. I'll mention it now at the end of the movie when we do our outro narration. Mitchum mentions that they spent 47 years together and never left each other's side, and that is probably the most fictitious statement in the entire movie.
Except when they were railing other people.
Yes, exactly. They did spend 47 years together, but yes, there was a lot of that. Will, you're right. They were both cheaters, serial cheaters. Their relationship was contentious and volatile. Again, movie magic. Let's make it smooth and easy. That's fine with me. It's just all a little forced. So they spot each other. Wyatt and Josie spot each other, and we get the first time that they lock eyes because that happens about 732 times in the movie, where they just lock eyes, and we know that's it. They're destined for each other.
You see the mustache wiggle, and it's on.
Yes, exactly. And it's funny because Mr. Fabian in all his acting glory, he just so romantically describes Wyatt, not Wyatt specifically, but Wyatt's type, as he's both predator and prey because he's stoic and blah, blah, blah. Josie just states, I want one. and Fabian's response is happy hunting because he already knows her. He knows what she's like. So he knows that the game is on between those two. So we transition to the theater where this troupe's performance is about to take place. The Cowboys were all there, and they're in good spirits. We'll say that. They're hooting and hollering and shooting guns and just busting balls and we got our first glimpse of Billy Breckenridge, played by Jason Priestley. This was his first mid 90210 role. He was at his height on TV. Everybody loved him. And this was his first role. It was a supporting role. He wasn't in the movie much, but, this was his pre-race car crash, beautiful boy, best look. Okay? Because he got a little fucked up when he crashed the car racing later on. Not in the movie, in real life. He comes strolling down, and the Cowboys are merciless. They tease the shit out of him because he's a bit effeminate, and back then that didn't fly, and they just they're so brutal to him. They're just not nice. But Curly Bill has a soft spot in his heart, almost like a fatherly thing for him, and he invites him to sit down next to him up front, and he sits down there and he's happy again. It's all good. We see the Earps getting seated up in the balcony. Wyatt and Maddie get a seat. They're waiting, and then Doc and Kate show up. Maddie apparently knows Doc, and maybe Kate too. It's funny. It's one of the only times in the whole movie she actually smiles, genuinely smiles. It's not forced or caused by being high on opium. She smiles. She's happy to see Doc. He shakes her hand, or kisses her hand, and she smiles. It's funny, though, in this scene that they're also establishing the fact that this relationship isn't going to last because Wyatt's not paying attention. She's standing up before Doc comes, and she's standing up, and the custom is for the gentleman to take off the lady's coat, and he doesn't even do it. She calls his name, and he realizes, he snaps out of it, and does it for her. But they're just, again, heavy-handedly setting this up that things are going to change, and it's a bit frustrating. It's just, again, the weak point of the movie for me. Before the show starts, they meet Mayor Clum, played by Terry O'Quinn, who is
John Locke. Oh my
exactly.
God.
Yep. Eric and my favorite TV show ever, Lost.
And Joe.
What?
I fucking love Lost too.
Oh right, you do. Sorry, I apologize.
Me and you were talking about doing a Lost cast, or we just did episodes of Lost.
Maybe we did talk about that. No, Joe, I apologize. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to leave you out. I don't know.
Now, Will, I don't know about Will.
It's the whole Eric is a brother from another mother thing with me. I've never seen it. Oh God. All right, we'll help you there.
We were even talking about doing bonus episodes.
No, you're
Lost.
right, dude. You nailed me. Okay, I apologize. Relax. I love you. I don't love you less, really.
I'm not your fucking Maddie.
There you go. Hey Josie, how you doing?
I'm more of a Josephine.
There you go. Yeah, Will, it's only 144-hour-long episodes. Just dive in. You'll be done in no time.
Oh, yeah, dude.
I've watched it 3 times. I don't know what your problem is. So anyway, he meets the mayor, and we talk about him shutting it down because the mayor approaches him, again, to maybe sign up and help the town out, become a marshal. The mayor gets not even a word out, and he just looks at him and goes, not a prayer, and turns around. That's it. This guy's the mayor of the town, and he blows him off. He doesn't give a shit. He wants nothing to do with the conversation. The mayor looks at the wife, and they're off. That's it. They're done. The show starts, right? Curtain goes up, and Dr. Gilman comes out. He's a juggler. And John Corbett, I believe, is Barnes. He goes, I seen Dr. Gilman. I seen him in Bisbee. he throws things. Or he catches things, I think. Yeah, he catches things, yeah. And then one of the other cowboys, he stands up, is one of the McLaurys. He stands up and he says, hey, Gilman, catch this. And he shoots one of the pins out of his arm, out of his hands. And the guy goes scurrying off the stage. They're shooting at us for real.
That was super fucked up.
It was so great.
It really was.
Yeah, it was. And, and it shows you the total disregard for life that the Cowboys have, because as good a shot as he is, he's going to so easily just kill the guy. It didn't matter to him. Nothing would have come of it. So he scurries off stage, and the fabulous Mr. Fabian comes on. He's going to do a speech from Henry V, Shakespeare play Henry V, the St. Crispin's Day speech. So he starts the speech, and one of the Cowboys takes a shot at the pillar he's got next to him. But Fabian flinches, but he just keeps going. He's an actor, and nobody's going to stop him from his craft. So, he does it. And almost instantly, the Cowboys respect that. They respect that he didn't back down from them in that sense. They all start hooting and hollering. They love this guy. We notice instantly that little Billy Breckenridge especially loves Fabian. He's instantly enamored with the guy. He's just staring at him, just soaking in his glorious acting. Absolutely has a thing for him. So they go through the soliloquy, and Curly Bill's comment, prettiest man I ever saw. So they all know how good looking this guy is. They're all thrilled. And things go well for the rest of the performance. It's very good. So then a performance of Faust starts. It's about making a deal with the devil. We get a quick insight during that performance as to how fucking gone, how lost Johnny Ringo is mentally. We know he's a psychopath, but he is a tortured soul. And Joe, could you roll it for me, please?
You know what I'd do? I'd take a deal and then crawfish and drill that old devil in the ass. How about you? What you do?
I already did it.
Yeah. And you can hear that Curly Bill chuckle, that famous Curly Bill chuckle at the end of it, but Curly Bill's scared. And later he'll vocalize that as to his feelings on Johnny.
But apparently that was fairly accurate. Like the actual Johnny Ringo was very dramatic with that, and threatened to kill himself a lot, and had a lot of
may have actually done that.
Illness.
There's evidence to to suggest that he did kill himself, and it didn't happen the way that we thought. But yeah, he was definitely a tortured soul. So you would call him a psychopath, and he is in the technical sense, but he is. He it could have been schizophrenia. It could have been any manner of bipolar, any manner of mental illness. But he had a lot of problems, and that basically lets us know, that he's definitely messed up. The performance ends, and Wyatt's, the cast comes out, and Wyatt's very interested to find out who the devil is. He probably knows already, but he wants to see. Devil comes out, takes off the mask, and of course it's Josie. And what do they do, boys? What happened? What do they do? They lock eyes again.
Oh yeah.
All right, they see each other, and this time Maddie sees it. So this is our first indication that things are coming to a head.
There's some fuckery afoot.
Yes, exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. So the two of them lock eyes again for number 355 or whatever it is. We know there's a connection. Maddie sees it, and we're gonna see where it goes. When he does see her, when Wyatt does see her, his comment is, "I'll be damned." And Doc's response is, "You may indeed, if you get lucky." So, Doc knows what's going on, too. He knows it's going to happen. We get a little more in depth in that in a few minutes. So the crew's leaving the theater. Morgan he's in a good mood. He's in a very serene mood. He's got his God talk going, his spiritual talk. He's talking about the stars being so incredible and makes him feel insignificant, but that he's, flattered that God would create him after creating that. And, he goes to ask Wyatt what he believes. And Wyatt don't want to give an answer. He's confused. We don't know why. His answer is, do you believe in God? Or the question is, do you believe in God? He's like, yeah, no, maybe. I don't know. What happens when you die? Gives the same answer. He's very non-committal. He doesn't want to get into it. Because, at this point it interferes with his need to just make his fortune and live life. He didn't want to think about that stuff. It creeps him out. So, he doesn't pay attention. We see Maddie dip into the laudanum again. Her addiction is full blown. He chastises her a bit in that he wants her to see a doctor, but she'll have none of that. Because she knows what will happen if she does. She'll get cut off. So they have a conversation about him needing to go to work. Virgil gets dragged off by Allie, saying, "I'm going to be with my old man tonight." Morgan's wife, I apologize to you, miss, I don't remember your name. She goes off because Morgan's going to join Wyatt. Maddie gives him, some crap, rightfully so. She just wants him to be with her, and he doesn't want any part of it. He tries to correct it by saying, "Okay, I'll hang out for a while," but it's too late. She knows it's done, so she tells him to go. She heads home with the others, and Morgan and Wyatt head over to the Oriental because they gotta go to work. We see a completely different Oriental now. It's packed so tightly that you can barely walk. So that bad mojo's gone. Everybody digs the place, and it's a place to party in Tombstone. Apparently, they're all there. Wyatt he starts off by sitting at the faro table. He's got some poor schlub thinking he's winning everything. It's his lucky night. Wins a bunch of stuff, then puts it all down on a card. Drops some mining deeds down, and in one flip of the card, it's gone. So Wyatt and the boys are now in the mining business as well, because they're just cleaning up. They're doing exactly what they set out to do. So him and Doc and Morgan end up over at the bar. It's interesting because Doc's partaking of the alcohol, Morgan is, but Wyatt's having coffee. He's not a drinker. I don't know how true that is in real life. I can't see that being the case, but at least in this movie, he's the one guy that doesn't really drink throughout the movie. So, they start having a conversation. Doc is basically hounding Wyatt about his feelings for Josie. And Wyatt's refusing to bite. They ask him what would happen if she walked in, and he says, "I'd ignore her." And neither of the two believe him, but not 2 seconds later, it happens. And Doc laughs, he snickers, and Josie comes in. The crowd goes crazy just because of her recent performance. She starts dancing. All the men want to dance with her. She's going from partner to partner dancing. She ends up in front of Wyatt and asks him to dance. And Wyatt turns around. He does exactly what he said he'd do. He'd ignore her. So, she nods her head, and Behan comes up to her, and they go off. And, Doc looks at him and goes, Wyatt, you're an oak. And or I stand corrected, you're an oak. So yeah, that's it. So we're back at the, we're still in the Oriental. Wyatt's back at the Faro table. Fabian walks in to great applause, and Billy Breckenridge immediately grabs him. Can you come to my table? Because they want to have a conversation. So he's very excited to see him. Wyatt's back dealing Faro, and the Cowboys are there. So they come over to the Faro table. Curly Bill acknowledges knowing who Wyatt is. I mean, he knows he's the famous lawman. Ike Clanton, he's the Cowboys' little bitch. He's a bit of a pussy, but he's a blowhard. He's sort of like Johnny Tyler. He's a blowhard who backs down at the first sign of trouble. In real life, I don't know that he was like that. In real life, Ike Clanton's dad, who Mitchum was supposed to play, he was one of the early leaders of the Cowboys before they were called the Cowboys. And Ike and his brother Billy, and there was another brother who wasn't in the movie. They took after, and I don't know that he was that much of a coward.
He did. From what I've read, he did run away during the OK Corral shooting.
Yeah, he did, because he didn't. He was unarmed. He didn't have a gun, so I think it was a self-preservation thing. I mean,
pussy.
Did he act like that? He could have. I don't know, but yeah. So it's possible. He's a bitch in this movie anyway. But
dude.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but it had not occurred to me until rewatching this film who that guy was.
Yeah, it's Stephen Lang.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know why. Yeah. I don't know why I never remembered Stephen Lang from Tombstone.
Yeah, well, you know what? He's a bit of a chameleon when you watch his roles, man. Because he was chubbier in this than, like, say, Avatar, where he was cut and ripped. And he can change with the wind for a role. He's good that way. So
I watched the one season of that damn show Terra Nova, and I thought it was fucking awesome, and then they canceled it.
I know that. Yeah. Yep. I agree.
Now,
that was such a cool fucking idea.
I saw that he, when making this movie, didn't drink any water and only drank as much tequila as he could, so he'd actually be very, very much good at playing this role, like very authentic.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Huh.
And then when he went to do his next movie and he sobered up, he actually he got like sick from like the.
He got the DTs.
The detox on it.
Yep. Wow. Well, that's commitment to a role. Holy shit.
Yeah.
But yes, Ike gets in Wyatt's face, and he's telling him, he's calling him Mr. Kansas Law Dog. Law don't go around here, Kansas Law Dog. Because he's got his fellow cowboys around him, so he's all big and blustery. Curly Bill drops $500 on the Faro table, and it's a winner. That would be about $8,000 in today's dough. So that was a pretty good haul for one hand to Faro. Pretty cool. So he's thrilled at this point. I mean, Curly Bill, and again, Curly Bill is never not happy through this whole thing. He's even at the end when we get to that, he's not unhappy. He's just amazed by it all almost. It's crazy. So it's at this point that Ringo, who's standing next to Curly, he notices Doc. Doc is not looking good. The TB is getting him like crazy. It's bad. They have a quick exchange, and then we go to this. So, Joe, roll it.
You must be Doc Holliday.
That's the rumor.
You retired too?
Not me. I'm in my prime.
Yeah, you look it.
You must be Ringo. Look, darling. Johnny Ringo. The deadliest pistolier since Wild Bill, they say. What do you think, darling? Should I hate him?
You don't even know him.
No, that's true, but I don't know. There's just something about him. Something around the house. I don't know. Reminds me of me. No, I'm sure of it. I hate him.
He's drunk.
In vino veritas.
Logic Woodagis.
Credat Judaeus Sotella non ego.
Juventus Stultorum. Magister.
Pace requiescat.
Come on, boys. We don't want any trouble in here, not in any language.
That's Latin, doll. Evidently, Mr. Ringo's an educated man. Now I really hate him.
It's such a great exchange. I mean,
Doug, if you didn't translate that for me right now,
I got it.
Okay. All right.
I got it here, buddy.
I'm fucking hanging up and I'm going to bed.
Yep, gotta do it.
Trust.
All right, so right after that, the tension is like at its peak. So Wyatt just states about Doc, he's drunk. He says that before the exchange in Latin. And so Doc's first response is, in wine, there is truth. Meaning when you're drunk, you tell the truth. And Ringo's response is, come as you are. Meaning you're the old man, I'm the young guy. Come on, let's do it. Let's do this. All right. Doc says, and this line's a little tough, but it says, let Apella the Jew believe, lest not I. And he points at Ringo when he says, let Apella the Jew believe, meaning you go ahead and believe what you want, I'll still kick your ass. All right. Ringo's response when he's touching his gun is, youth is the teacher of fools. So that's obvious. He's calling Doc a fool, and the young guy is going to take care of business. Doc's response to that is rest in peace. So they've set the stage for each other. We know it's coming, regardless of how this thing plays out. It's coming, and they're going to get to each other. I just love the line. Apparently Mr. Ringo's an educated man. Now I know I hate him. It's so great. Val Kilmer, again, we go back to that whole Willem Dafoe thing. Forget it, man. Forget it. Val Kilmer owns this movie. It's his movie, and we're all just lucky to watch it.
Did he win any awards for this?
I think he might. I didn't look. I should have. He may have been nominated, but I'm not sure. The movie wasn't good enough to be that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if he would have been considered, but I'd have to check. I don't know.
Right.
But yeah, he definitely deserved it because it was amazing. So at that point, after the exchange, Ringo starts spinning his gun, and it's good. I mean, Michael Biehn practiced this. They both did, but Michael Biehn practiced this. He wanted it to look as authentic as possible, and he did a good job. He was doing a lot of cool tricks with the gun. The crowd's impressed. Everybody's clapping and applauding and whooping it up because it's impressive. He finishes. He holsters the weapon, and Doc, again, not looking good, sweaty, pasty, drunk off his ass. They all look at him for the response, and he just starts twirling his drink cup, just comically twirling the cup, spinning it up, down, sideways, and the crowd loves it because, they just think it's funny, but he just put Ringo in his place, but also infuriated him even more by doing
that. Had to be one of my favorite scenes in the movie,
right?
I mean, just so good. Oh, and just to interject here, as far as awards go, Tombstone, 1993, Val Kilmer was nominated for an MTV movie.
Oh.
award.
All right, shit.
Best male performance and most desirable male.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
But he didn't win either one.
Nah.
Well, it's no Thunderheart. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Talk about a soul-sucking fucking movie. Anyway, so, the tension, again, it's still high. Like I said, Johnny Ringo is infuriated. He is losing it in his head. Curly Bill knows this. He doesn't want any trouble. So he just, in his jovial self, he walks up to the bar right in front of Josie and says, "Drinks on me," and just basically makes it rain. He throws the money up in the air, the thousands of dollars he's just won. He throws up in the air, and it's a party. So it diffuses the situation, and I definitely think that was his intention at that point. And guess what happens again, boys? Wyatt and Josie lock eyes. Like, there's no fucking reason for that in this scene, but they got to do it again. So, so they lock eyes again. Which leads us to the most cringeworthy scene in the whole fucking movie, besides the end of it. The next morning, Wyatt's up in the mountains riding horses. He's riding his horse.
This is terrible.
Yeah, it's awful. It's absolutely awful. He's up in the mountains riding his horse, and
but you can't have a horse opera without horses.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's rent it out of him.
Yep. Yeah. He looks. There you go. He looks down the hill a little bit, and he sees Josie riding a horse. And I'm like, oh no, please no. But yep. And again, I think it's like the third time he goes, oh hell. He says that every time he sees it, he goes, oh hell.
What is this stupid fucking shirt he's wearing?
I know. It's that white. It's almost like the big shirt, the puffy shirt in Seinfeld.
But it has like an apron on the front of it.
Yeah.
Like a fucking,
I mean, it was supposed to be
some shit fucking
like
Prince would wear.
Honestly, it's the costumes in this movie were period authentic, down to the wool. They were dying. People were almost dying of heat stroke because it was 120 degrees in fucking Arizona when they shot it. So it was like period appropriate. I don't know, but it was a silly shirt. He starts heading towards her, and his comment is, "I'm an oak, all right," because he knows it's over. I can't even go into the fucking jabber that goes on with this too much, but
looks like my horse wants to fuck your horse.
Exactly. There's a way awkward conversation about horses in season, and she plays stupid. How do they know? They smell it. Of course, they smell it. You dopey. I mean, they know, just like So. They go through that. Then suddenly
sorry.
There's a picnic. They have a fucking picnic. I guess she had the stuff already. I don't know. They lay the blanket down and they start talking about life. And she's trying to get him to say what he wants to do. And he's giving the stupid man answers about kids and a family and blah, blah, blah. And she's not buying it. And he can't comprehend her willingness to just go from guy to guy. And just because, she's a woman with needs. And she's 100% right. That's absolutely, that's the way it should be. But, talks about the fact that she wants to live life ordering room service. So,
by the way, this is the most progressive Old West woman I've ever seen in my life.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And apparently she was like that. Besides the boozing and the cheating and the stealing, she was like that. She saw something she wanted, and she took it. In every sense of the word, in a practical, transactional sense and in a human sense. So, she was ahead of her time in that sense. But, finally, she lets out the room service line, which comes back later to bite us again. And the scene's over. Thankfully, the fucking scene's over. We are reminded of it in the next scene, though, quickly. It's a short scene, but Wyatt returns home to a very, very manic and high Maddie. I mean, she's, God knows how deep into the bottle she is of laudanum.
It's a new bottle.
That's true. It's a new bottle. And, at this point, Wyatt he's half-heartedly trying to get her help. He doesn't give a fuck, and you can tell, and it's awful. It's horrible. It's like, fine, you don't love this woman anymore. Get her help. Drag her to the doctor. Do something. Don't just fucking, blow it off, which he keeps doing. So that's a bit frustrating, or it's very frustrating. He lays Josie's story on her. In that, what do you say we just pull up stakes and we live off room service? And, he realizes that's what he wants to do. It's his excuse to get away from Maddie. But, she, of course, looks at him like he's nuts, even in her hazed state. She looks at him like he's insane. And that's the end of the scene. But it's basically a table-setting scene for what's going to happen. That's all it is. And it's heavy-handed, again. I've mentioned that already. But it bothers me. It's one of the scenes I could definitely do without.
This movie could have easily been an hour 45.
No, exactly. And the funny thing is there's a director's cut that's like 8 or 9 minutes longer than the version we watched. that's the scenes in that.
That scene is 8 minutes longer?
No. Overall, there's about 8 minutes more in the director's cut, and all of those scenes you can watch it and see why they cut them. There was no need for it, and they could have cut even more. But there were much longer scenes. There were some longer scenes in that. So anyway, mercifully that scene is over. We are back at the Oriental again. So Billy Clanton, Ike's younger brother, he's played by Thomas Hayden Church, as I mentioned. His claim to fame is Wings, and he was in Idiocracy. He was the Brando CFO or CEO in Idiocracy. As well as a bunch of, like I said, Sideways with Paul Giamatti's a great movie, and We Bought a Zoo is a corny, sappy movie I like. It's been a lot
Spider-Man
of stuff.
3?
Yes, Spider-Man 3, Sandman. Yeah. Yes, exactly. So, he's a cool actor. I dig him a lot. Because he can play a lot of different roles. He can play the tough, he can play the heavy, he can play a good guy, play a funny guy, so it's cool. So he's in there, and he's watching Doc play the piano with Kate, and he's dropping comments about what she's doing with that Lunger, again with the Lunger thing, and, he's drunk off his ass, everybody's drunk. So, Billy starts spouting off some songs by Stephen fucking Foster, Camptown Races, and I forget the rest, those type of old Westy, twinkle piano tunes that I can't stand. That you learn in music class in the 4th grade.
This is Frederick fucking
Chopin, yeah. So that's a great line.
When he comes up and says play Camptown Races, all I could think of is that intro scene from Blazing Saddles.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's a quick cut. Sort of the same scene. There's a quick cut over to the opium den across the street. We see Curly Bill, and he is fucked up. Oh my God. Okay, he's hallucinating. All right. He stumbles out of the opium den, and he's looking up at the sky, and he's like, "I feel capital," and he's looking at his fingers like they're not attached to his body, and all sorts of shit. But on a dime, he turns and just mean. Like he sees people, and their very existence pisses him off, and he starts shooting at them. How he missed those people, I'll never know. He was shooting point blank at some of them. He didn't hit them. The guy on the horse rides by. He's 3 feet from him, and he misses him. Thankfully for these folks, okay? So he's out in the middle of the road, middle of the street. He's howling at the moon. He's shooting at the sky. Inside the Oriental, Behan is mouthing off because he's a fucking coward. Somebody needs to take care of that. And I think it's the mayor. Somebody says, well, you're the marshal. This is a town matter. I'm county. He's not touching that shit with a 10-foot pole. Fred White is scared. Old Fred's scared, but he knows he's got to go out and do it. He's all right, I'll go do it. He comes out, and, he's got his pistol drawn, and he sternly tells, Curly Bill, hand over your weapons. And you can see, and Curly actually respects Fred, because he knows, Fred doesn't work directly with them, but from the earlier statement about the Cowboys bringing money into the town, Fred knows the relationship needs to be, moderated, and Curly respects that. So he sort of likes him, he loves him in a way, and he is listening to him. So he goes to hand over the weapons, and then he spins them on his fingers, so they're sort of like upside down. But at the last second, he shoots poor Fred. And I'll finish this and then go into what really happened. But he shoots poor Fred. And, I love Harry Carey Jr., but his death was fucking awful.
Yeah.
He died like a kid in a high school production of somebody. Because it was just way overacted,
Like that part in Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Ooh.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. It's bad. He finally drops. He's laying on his back. He's gone. We see him get shot in the heart. He's done. This is gonna play a part in a scene, a couple of scenes or a scene from now. But we see Josie and Behan outside witness this happen. They see it happen. They see what happens, okay? And there are other people on the street to see what happens. Wyatt comes out, right? Wyatt comes out. He pistol whips Curly Bill and knocks him out, right? They grab poor Fred to get him off the street. They just want to get him out. an angry mob surrounds Curly Bill because the beloved town marshal is now dead, and it's Curly Bill's fault. He murdered him. They want to lynch him on the spot. Wyatt, even though he's not anywhere involved in the law portion of this town, he's like, no, he's going to go to trial for murder, and we'll get justice, or however he phrases it. So he basically, with his pistol drawn, he's keeping everybody at bay. Then the rest of the crew start showing up to help out with their guns, just to keep the people from murdering them. Of course, at the same time, the cowboys show up. Ike and the rest of the crew show up. They want him released immediately, but they're not having any of it. They're gonna lock Curly Bill up. So there is a clip that you can play for me, please, Mr. O'Rourke.
He said to turn loose of him.
I'm not. So go home.
I swear to God, Law Dog, you don't step aside, we'll tear you apart.
You die first, get it? Your friends might get me in a rush, but not before I make your head into a canoe. You understand me?
He's bluffing. Let's rush him. No. He ain't bluffing.
You're not as stupid as you look, Ike. Now tell him to get back.
Go on now, get back. Go on! Billy! He'll kill me.
And you, music lover, you're next.
Drunk piano player. You're so drunk you can't hit nothing. In fact, you're probably seeing double.
I have 2 guns, one for each of you.
Another classic line by Mr. Holliday that is just so fucking great. So yeah, Ike turns coward again. Well, not coward, it's self-preservation at that point, because he knows that Wyatt's not bluffing. And I also, one of my favorite lines, your friends may get me in a rush, but not before I turn your head into a canoe. That is such a great line. It really is. So that's how that whole situation is diffused, and we move on. So I'm going to jump into the next scene and then talk quickly about what really happened. So it's the next day, or it's that day or a couple of weeks later. I'm not sure at this point. It's a little bit of time has passed, but it's the morning, and they're in the saloon, and they're all talking about the fact that Curly Bill got off on this murder. Judge Spicer, who was a real judge, he was the judge for that county, so he was involved in a lot of these things in real life. His comment was, "No witness, no murder," and they let him off. And again, it goes back to what I said about Behan and Josie. Both were right there when they saw it happen, among a bunch of other people. So it's kind of crazy. Mayor Klum is in there again. He's still trying to convince all of them to get involved and help the town. They're all having none of it. And Klum makes a point, and it gets to Virgil in that, well, you're making a lot of money in this town, and you're taking advantage of the people in this town making that money. It doesn't affect Morgan. Morgan makes a comment about the only thing I have a problem with is my hangover, and Wyatt's Wyatt. He's not giving a shit. But you can see in Virgil's eyes that it's getting to him. Before we jump on to the next scene, so that whole showdown, Curly Bill did get off, but the reason he got off is that he didn't do it. He was handing his guns over to Fred, and they were half cocked, probably because of the state he was in. And Fred grabbed the gun and pulled it while Curly's finger was on the trigger, and the gun went off. And he didn't die right away. All right, he lasted 2 or 3 days, and he was able to give a statement saying that this was my fault. He didn't do it. And Wyatt even testified in defense of Curly, saying, I saw it too, because he was there. And it didn't happen that way. It was an accident, so he shouldn't be convicted of it.
Yeah, and more of the reason he arrested him was to keep him from getting lynched.
Exactly. No, that's exactly it. He was protecting him. And apparently, according to this historical record, too, though, while Curly Bill was obviously appreciative of that fact, he never forgave or didn't want to forgive Wyatt for pistol whipping him. Like, he didn't understand. He was trying to save his life. He just didn't get it. So he held a grudge against Wyatt and all the Earps and Doc as well because of that. But they saved his life. So, you know, I understand it. That's too much story to have to infuse into this movie. It's fine the way it happened. You know, it's based on true events. It's not true events to the T. But yeah, that's just some background on how it actually happened.
It's intermission time. Time for refreshment. During the next 10 minutes, you're invited to visit the refreshment stand, where you'll be greeted with fast, friendly service. You'll find hot dogs, juicy hamburgers, and mouth-watering delicious pizza. There are refreshing hot and cold beverages, ice-cold cola, and orange drink. Goes great with an order of crispy French fries. Then there's a wide selection of your favorite candies and other delicious snacks. And there's always a fresh batch of hot buttered popcorn to go with the rest of the show. So visit the refreshment stand now during this 10-minute intermission and add to your enjoyment of the movie. We're happy to have you with us tonight and hope you'll come back often.
Hold your ears, folks. It's showtime.
So, all right, so we're going to jump back into it. We've got another scene in town. This quickly ties into my statement about Virgil. It's starting to get to him because the very next scene, he's outside and the cowboys are riding through town just terrorizing people just because that's what they do, you know. They're riding fast. They're trying to run over people. They're shooting and shit. Just, you know, just generally messing around. Virgil grabs a kid and pulls him out of the way just before he's about to get trampled by a horse. And he puts him down. And the mom of the kid, you know, she reaches a hand out and the kid goes to her. And we see that, you know, she's obviously a single mom. She's got 4 kids. She's single. You know, I'm extrapolating, but this is the intent of the scene. Again, it's a little heavy-handed. You know, she's a single mom because of the Cowboys. She's got a scar on her face. Like, they're playing us up to the hilt to drive Virgil over the edge and do something. Like, they couldn't have done any more short of removing one of her limbs or something to make her more sympathetic to turn him. So, you know, he sees that, and you can see he gets the message. The next scene we jump into now is Virgil in front of the marshal's office posting new town rules. He's decided to become the town marshal and replace Fred. And the biggest rule that everybody's losing their shit about, so this, you know, Second Amendment goes even back then and before, is his rule is no guns in town. You know, and that was actually a fairly common rule in a lot of towns out there in order to keep the violence to a minimum as best they could. They made it a misdemeanor to carry a gun within town limits. You know, his comment was, we're not saying you can't have a gun, you just can't have a gun in town. Yep. The crowd goes nuts. Wyatt storms up on his horse. This was probably unintentional, but he almost killed one of the actors because the guy had a shotgun up. He pushes the shotgun so hard to get out of his way, it hits the guy in the head. It was definitely not part of the scene. And he gets off the horse, and he's asking Virgil what's going on. He sees Virgil's badge, and he's like, what are you doing? We had our plan. You're fucking it all up. You know, this is not good, blah, blah, blah. He's just ragging on him. And then he looks to Morgan as the voice of reason, and Morgan opens his coat, and he's got a badge too. And, you know, that's it. Wyatt goes into a quick little learning tool for Morgan about, you know, you think you know what it's like to kill a man, but you don't.
Yep.
The
mayor is also pushing this as well. This no guns
in
town thing. And when Wyatt tries to like tell him that like it's not a good idea, I actually got a quote from the mayor here.
Yeah.
Don't ever tell me what I can't do, ever.
There you go. That's what he tells him.
That's exactly what he tells him.
So everybody's telling Wyatt off. So yeah, I mean, you know, and it's cool. I looked it up and I kind of confirmed it because at this point Wyatt says I've only ever killed one man in my life, you know, and I'll never forget it. And apparently, as his time as a marshal in Dodge City and other towns, that's true as far as I could see. Documented that up to that point, he had only killed one man. So that changes in real life and in the movie coming up. So we, you know, Wyatt storms off. It's, you know, he's done with the brothers for the moment. He doesn't want any part of it. So our next scene, we're back at the Oriental again. It's the hot spot. Josie's singing Red River Valley at the piano. Beautiful voice. She's doing her thing. Doc is playing poker with some cowboys. It's Ike and the McClory brothers, Tom and Frank. Morgan's dealing at that point. You know, Wyatt and Virgil are in the room. They're just kind of watching. Morgan sneaks over to let Wyatt know that Doc's been up. He's been at it for 36 straight hours. I mean, and you can see it. The guy is like...
This is my part. It's my favorite part. Go ahead.
He's at death's door. I mean, he's fucked up, but he's not stopping. Wyatt tries to stop him, you know, and... You know, Doc is dropping the comments, and he's like, "I will not be pawed at." So.
Yeah, that line. That's it.
So
I'll not
great.
be pawed at. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yes, that's true. That's the way he says it.
Begun to
defile myself. Yeah. So I mean, you know, he's having none of it because this is Doc. It's the way he lives his life. You know. So yeah, at this point, just roll that clip, Joe.
What is that now? The 12 hands in a row holiday? Son of a bitch, nobody's that lucky.
Why, Ike? Whatever do you mean?
Is that the right one?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. I was like, for some reason it didn't feel right, but...
No, that was it. That was a quick one because it was after that you know, he dropped the 4 queens down and I lost it. But I wanted that play because, again, that's one of the lines, like... That'll drop in my house. You know, somebody will say something to somebody else, and I'm like, "Why, Ike? Whatever do you mean?" You know, just to bust balls. Like we use that all the time. So, you know, they keep going at it. Virgil steps in to try to calm things down. Ike's having none of it. He starts talking about cutting your pimp heart out. Okay, you know that does not go over well with Virgil. He is not happy. He's about to do something when Doc stands up and then collapses to the ground with blood coming out of his mouth. Obviously, his health is declining rapidly. They scoop up Doc and they tell him to bring him over to the hotel and have him rest up. So they all leave. Even Virgil sort of leaves, right, to help Doc. And you know, Ike and the cowboys are getting up to leave, and you know, Ike goes to the bar and they all go to get their weapons because they got to check their weapons at the door. And you know, Ike is he's drunk as shit and he's riled up, so he even gets on Milt's case, and Milt, you know, he says about cheating. Milt says nobody cheated you, and fucking Ike bitch slaps him. You know, it's typical cowboy shit, typical Ike shit. He starts mouthing off how they're going to get the ERPs. They're going to get them all, you know. He doesn't know that Virgil's standing behind him. And he turns around, and Virgil pistol whips him right in the head and knocks him out. So the other cowboys have left at this point, actually, so they don't even know what happened at that moment. So he brings Ike off to jail, throws him in a cell, basically to let him sober up. He's not arresting him for anything. You know, so we transition to the next morning. Ike was so drunk he's still drunk. Like it's the next morning and he's still not sober. The McClory brothers come to pick him up. Of course, they're usual cowboy defiant. You know, even the younger McClory. You know, he's got that snotty kid attitude, but he's not taking shit from anybody. They want Ike's guns, but, you know, Virgil's like, no, when he sobers up, he can get his guns. And then that leads us to this. Joe, fire it up.
Come on. The hell you think you are? Watch the way you walk, you stupid bastard. Easy, kid. I'm sorry. I ain't easy. I ain't your kid. You take sorry and shove it up your ass.
I'll fight you right now.
gonna bleed. You got a fight coming. Coming today. Bastard! It's coming!
There we go. So I thought it was important to play that clip just because it is the lead up to, what it's not the climax of the movie, but it's the peak of the movie to that point. It's basically the signature moment of the movie and the lore and the story, real, what really happened. So we're going to get to that shortly. So we jump to a quick scene of a doctor checking on the doc because, he's laid up in bed now. The doc lays it out. I mean, he says he's lost 60% of his lung tissue. And, if he stops everything right now, he could last 2 years or 2 days. That's how bad it is. Doc is realizing this, and he's also realizing that his relationship with Kate is coming to an end because she is part of the reason he's dying, in the sense that, she, again, it's transactional with them, so she doesn't really, bottom line, care if he lives or dies. She's going to milk, or she knows he's going to die, so she'll milk every penny out of him before it happens. And he knows that too. So he tries to start, he says we have to redefine the nature of our relationship. And she's having none of that. She starts turning on the charms and basically goes right for the crotch to, have him forget what he's talking about. And his line at the end of that scene is, "You are a good woman. Then again, you may be the Antichrist." And, that could be, who knows? But, yeah, she's still trying to charm him to get every penny out of him. We move to a scene of the cowboys riding towards town, or they're in town, and the Earps are standing there, and they watch 6 cowboys ride past. Wyatt looks at Virgil and says, yeah, I think it's time you swear me in, because they know trouble's coming. Wyatt then goes to his house to get his Peacemaker pistol. From what I read, there's no evidence he ever owned a pistol like that, but it's got the longest barrel I've ever seen for a pistol.
It's like a Smith & Wesson 500.
Yeah, I think it's something like that. I'm not sure.
Those Navy Colts were big.
Yeah, it is a cult. It was a cult. I remember reading that. But again, he may or may not have owned a pistol like that. We don't know. It doesn't really matter. But he goes and retrieves that from the house, and he's ready to bring it now. So they're all back at the marshal's office, and the mayor comes in and lets the Earps know that the cowboys are running their mouths about taking them out, gunning them down. They're going to get rid of all of them. Doc shows up, and I want you to play that clip, Joe.
It's not your problem, Doc. You don't have to mix up in this.
That is a hell of a thing for you to say to me.
All right, Verge. Your call. Give Doc the shotgun. He'll be less apt to get nervy if he's on a street howitzer.
All right. So, yeah, I mean, at the beginning of that clip, Doc gets pissed because, at the end of this movie, we learn what they truly mean to each other because they vocalize it finally. And that hurt Doc just, for a second. But it upset him because, he's always been there they've always been there for each other. And, this isn't even a question for Doc to be there to help Wyatt and his brothers. So, it pissed him off a bit. But I love that Street Howitzer line. I absolutely love it. That is also one of my favorites. I don't use it around the house too much because it's not appropriate, but, it works.
It's the second best nickname for a shotgun, the first being the room broom.
There you go. You're right. Yeah, absolutely. There you go. I would take that first. I totally agree. So we get a quick shot of the Earps walking towards the OK Corral where they know the cowboys are. Just a little checklist there. There's a building on fire. We assume the cowboys did it. I guess they are. They're trying to put the fire out. I forgot to mention it earlier, but some of of Morgan's reaction shots when shit's going down is hysterical. The way Paxton played him, he's a scared little kid. Okay, he's shitting himself a lot, and he's not a coward, not by any means, but this is all new to him. You know, he's trying to live up to the name his brothers have created for the Earps, and it's difficult for him because he's young. And you know, I'm trying to look here. I put my paper away, but I forget he's obviously the second youngest, but the youngest in this instance in this movie. But when they're walking towards the OK Corral and that kid comes up, he shit himself. There's no question about it. He's like, "Damn kids," you know, drove him crazy. And Doc is, of course, he's cool as a cucumber. He's whistling, and that was actually a Val Kilmer ad lib. He just thought it would be appropriate for Doc to just be, again, as cool as a cucumber, and just, you know, he's ready for anything at any time. So he's just whistling a happy tune, waiting for this all to go down. So we are at the scene. We're at the scene, the OK Corral. Even if you're only mildly, you know, into westerns or you know, the old West, almost everybody knows, you know, gunfight at the OK Corral. It's been done 100 times in movies. Everybody just knows the reference. At the very least, they know what's going on. It turns out that, you know, the actual gunfight took place in an alley next to the OK Corral. But it kind of looked like, you know, the stage that they set is pretty realistic as to how it looked. They might have changed the signage around just to, you know, help people understand what was going on. But before they round the corner into that alley, into that area where the gunfight takes place, Behan, he shows up and he tells the boys that he's already disarmed them. He's just looking to defuse the situation because he knows what's coming. But he also wants to keep control of the town. So, you know, he gives that line of bullshit, but they know what's going on. They don't even believe him. They keep walking. You know, so they round the corner, and there are 6 of them there, 6 cowboys. We got Ike and Billy Clanton. We got the McLaury brothers. We got Barnes. And we got Claiborne, who we don't really see much. Cool thing about Claiborne is he's played by Wyatt Earp, who is the 5th cousin of the actual Wyatt Earp. He's Wyatt Earp the 3rd, so he's the 3rd person named Wyatt Earp from that family. They used him in that movie, in that role. He has no speaking lines. You only see him in that one scene, and he ends up running away almost instantly. So, but yeah, his actual name is Wyatt Earp. You know, Virgil, he just shouts out that, you know, throw down your weapons. We're here to disarm you, and throw up your hands. They all stop. They all draw their weapons. They're all staring at each other. Nothing's happening. They're building the tension. It's a good job of that. Everything seems okay. The tension's building, but there's nothing going on until Doc, he winks at Billy Clanton, and that is again a Val Kilmer ad lib. He decided to do that, and they kept it in. And as soon as that happens, the shooting starts. I mean, you know, Wyatt just says, "Oh my God," because he knows what's coming, and they just start shooting. I like the way this takes place in the sense is, like, I don't know what a gunfight like that would look like, but in my head, the randomness of the aiming and just the frenetic pace is what I would think would happen in a situation like that when you got, you know, 8 guys facing off against each other they're 6 feet apart. You know, no one's taking aim. They're just, you know, bringing their guns up and they're shooting and hoping they hit something. You know, the gunplay, just, they go nuts. You know, everything is nuts. I mean, Virgil gets shot in the arm. Morgan gets shot in the leg. There are a couple of cowboys that are down and out at this point. To take a step back, before they start shooting, Ike, once again, he chickens out. He doesn't have his gun, which again I read is real. In this case, he didn't have his gun. He runs into the portrait studio next to the alley there, the Fly portrait studio, to hide. You know, and he's done that multiple times in this movie already. They get to a lull in the sense that, you know, there's really not many people left standing. And, you know, Doc circles one of the cowboys and holds his gun up. It's Billy Clanton. And, you know, he pulls the trigger and he's got nothing in the barrel. so in the chamber. So he stands there, and Clanton says to him that, well, actually, you got a clip, Joe, so why don't you run it?
I got you now, you son of a bitch.
You're Daisy if you do.
Morgan, hold quiet now.
All right. All of you are under arrest.
I don't think I'll let you arrest us today, Behan.
I love that line. Going back to that clip real quick, I was mistaken. It wasn't Billy Clanton. It was one of the McLaury brothers that Doc has the confrontation with. You're a daisy with you do. If you do, that is accurate, and it is documented that Doc said that. It was documented in newspapers by eyewitness accounts, and he said it. And that is yet another line you could choose in the house. If somebody says they're going to do something, you're a daisy if you do. It gets this movie again. It's the movie. So after that, Josie, who was in the movie studio, the portrait studio, she runs out to check on Wyatt. And awkward moment number 500. Maddie comes around the corner to check on Wyatt at the same time. There's that little wordless confrontation. It's just not good.
Bad gas travels fast in a small town.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And you can tell by the look on all their faces that they know that a storm is coming, figuratively and literally. We jump to the next scene. It's the funeral for the 3 cowboys that were murdered, or murdered. That's what the cowboys are claiming anyway. We see a funeral procession with some carriages carrying 3 coffins. I think it's Ike and one of the other cowboys is carrying a banner that says "Murdered on the Streets of Tombstone." So, they're playing up that sympathy angle. It's Billy Clanton, so Ike's brother. He lost his brother, and both McLaury brothers are the victims in this case. Morgan and Wyatt have a quick conversation, lamenting about taking a man's life, with Morgan agreeing. You're right. It's nothing like I thought it would be. It's affected him. So they are now in town. Some time has passed. A little bit of time has passed anyway. Yeah. They mentioned it's getting hotter, so we know that, a couple of months have passed anyway. And again, to take a step back from real life, the timeline in this movie is nothing like how events transpired. While many of the individual events were pretty close to accurate, they didn't happen in as short a time span as is represented in the movie. But that's fine. Again, it's a telling of a tale. So the Earps are walking down. They're walking in town, and Billy Breckenridge walks up to them, and they say hello, and he's just pissed at him. He laces into him about killing his friends, and I don't want to talk to you. If I was somebody or I was bigger, I'd fight you all. But that's not what he does. As he leaves, Wyatt comments, all they ever do is make fun of him, and that doesn't, it doesn't matter to Billy. They're his friends. They walk by a drunk Ringo. Ringo is fucked up. He is messed up from this, the confrontation, and they happen to walk by him. They don't really see him. So, Joe, roll the clip.
Sister boy should have stuck around.
What do you want, Ringo?
I want your blood. I want your souls. And I want them both right now.
I don't want any more trouble.
Well, you got trouble!
And it starts with you.
I'm not gonna fight you, Ringo. There's no money in it. Sober up. Come on, boys.
Wretched slugs. Don't any of you have the guts to play for blood?
I'm your huckleberry. That's just my game.
All right, Lunger. You go to hell. I'll put you out of your misery.
Say when. Johnny, don't! Get off! Get off!
Don't mind him. He just drunk, that's all.
Who the hell, Johnny? No! I want them spitting blood! Easy, son, easy. Now ain't the time. Slow down, Ringo!
I tell you, boys, even I'm worried what's going to happen once Ringo runs this outfit. God have mercy.
Gentlemen.
Yeah. So I love that scene. I'm Your Huckleberry is my favorite line in this movie. It's my text notification. It has been for about 12 years, 10 years. I absolutely love it. Again, it's used in the house because, I mean, it was a phrase of the time, and it just basically means I'm the perfect man for the job. So, it gets used in the house when we're talking about doing something good. Yep, I'm Your Huckleberry. And it's my absolute favorite line in the movie. There's no question about that. But that's an important scene besides that line, because we're to the boiling point between the Cowboys and the Earps. At the end, those are 3 coffins that he stumbled and knocked over. But we also hear Curly Bill being his affable self, but he ain't kidding when he's worried about Ringo taking over. And he states that now out loud. So yeah, we know some shit's going down. We know it's going to happen. So we move to our next scene. It's the storm that I mentioned. It's the actual storm. It's a stormy night in Tombstone. High winds, lightning, the whole bit. It's not really raining, but, it's nasty out there. The Earps are at the Oriental. They're just closing up, basically. Place is empty. It's just them. Virgil says he's heading home, so he heads out. We quick cut to, home, Virgil's house, and all the women are there. And they're waiting for Virgil to come home. They know he's coming home soon. And one of the women is laying out some tarot cards, and she's dropping the worst cards as death and I don't know what other ones, but basically pointing to the hell that's coming. So Josie comes in because previously Behan told her that shit was going down, and that she'd be well to know the man in charge, meaning him, that things are going to change. So I also found this a little weird. She decides after gathering that information that, not to run to the Oriental to tell Wyatt and the boys, but run home to tell the girls. So she comes in the house and she lets the girls know what's going on. Something bad's going to happen. And, just as she's inside, they see a shadow at the window. The door opens up and there's a double shotgun blast. Whichever cowboy it is misses, but, it lets you know that things are going down. We cut back to the Oriental. And, Wyatt and Morgan are talking, and from the side door walks Virgil. And, Wyatt quips, "What'd you forget, Virg?" And, Virgil comes around the bar, and he calls Wyatt's name, and he falls to the ground. And we see his arm is absolutely wrecked. It's torn up. Wyatt runs over and picks up Virgil, and I read this apparently. He wailed Sam Elliott's head into the top of the bar when he picked him up. He gave him a pretty good knot on his head from that. And it's in the scene. You can see it happen. They didn't change it. But, so we're back at the house. They get Virgil back to the house. The doctor's checking him out. The girls are crying. Morgan and Wyatt are beside themselves. And, the doctor lets Virgil know he's going to lose the use of his arm. And that was the case in real life. Now, as far as that real timeline goes, this happened the same day as the OK Corral shootout. It did not in this case, but in the movie. But in real life, it did. It happened the same day. So everybody's suddenly pissed at Wyatt, and I'm a little confused by this because they were very happy to follow him, and they were thanking him in the beginning. And, he didn't do anything he'd never done in his life. I mean, he was out of the game. He wanted to make the money. He was making the money. And I don't know how it suddenly turned his fault because Virgil's the one that wanted to help the town out. I'm not saying he's not at fault, but it was just a little weird the way they turned on him anyway. Morgan mentioned he just heard that the Cowboys also hit the mayor's house and basically killed the mayor and his wife and kids. So he can't even get his head around that. Like, he's like, who does that? His wife, who does that? Yeah, it's messed up. Excuse me. Wyatt goes outside and uprides McMasters, who's a former cowboy. Creek in Texas. The three of them are there. And they basically pledge their help. They lay it out that we're here to help you. Wyatt sort of confronts McMasters because he's a cowboy, brothers to the bone. And McMasters had enough. He throws his red sash on the ground. He says, no, that's it. And they pledge their assistance to Wyatt to maybe, stop this problem that's happening with the Cowboys. We cut to Morgan. I don't think it's the Oriental from what I read, at least in real life it was not. It was a different place. It was a billiard place that he went to shoot some pool. He lines up for a shot, and a gunshot rings out, and it gets him right in the back. He drops to the ground, and we do a quick cut to the doctor and Wyatt working on Morgan on top of the pool table.
I'm so fucking glad I was not alive.
Yeah, I know, exactly.
I would have never fucking made it.
No, not me.
I would have been dead a long fucking time ago.
Such a fucking pussy. There is no way that I would ever make it through any medical
I talked
procedure.
too much shit. I would have been fucking just killed because I talked too much shit. I'd have been the fucking real Doc Holliday.
No, exactly. But that's the thing. Removing gunfights and murders from the equation. There's so much shit that could kill you back then. Like, you're right. I would be dead. I would be dead. But
and can you imagine how everybody smelled?
There's no fucking air conditioning.
Dude,
no, it's awful. It's
like
awful.
Fucking ass.
No, I don't think I would die in a cool way either. It would be like dehydration or something stupid.
Dysentery, baby. Oregon Trail, dysentery. That's what had happened to me. I die by shitting myself. So they're working on Morgan. There is blood, and rightfully so. There's fucking blood.
Real quick, before we get into that. If your brother just came in and had to get his arm sawed off, and they've been killing a bunch of people in town, do you think you'd run home to your family, or you'd go play pool?
Well, no, here's the thing.
In real life, these were months apart.
Yes, and I think that was their way of trying to demonstrate that. They just didn't do a good job with the continuity. Will's right. This happened 5 months later. But yeah, they did a poor job deminating that. But I agree, it wasn't the same.
It seemed like it was all the same.
No,
night.
I agree. Exactly. They just did a poor job. With the editing and continuity. It's definitely an error in that. So they're covered in blood. The doctor's trying to get the bullet out. It's too deep. He can't get it out. The dog's barking. Wyatt's trying to get somebody to shut the dog.
Fucking dog out of here.
Right. The wives are crying, of course, because they're watching. She's watching her husband die. The doc gives up. He knows it's done. And apparently, I forget the doctor's name, but he was a well-respected physician in that town and county, and he was very good at gunshot wounds. And he was very capable of saying that, nope, this is it. Okay, it ain't happening. So he walks away, which it calms Morgan down a bit in the sense that he's not in pain from getting his dug in his back to get a bullet out. And he has the heart-to-heart with Wyatt because he knows he's dying. He references back to his spiritual talk earlier in the movie about seeing a white light, as the path to heaven. And he goes, you know that white light? And Wyatt says, yeah. And he's like, I don't see nothing. And then he dies. And apparently that was a conversation they had when Morgan died. Because they had a pact And I guess that's why this spiritual conversation took place earlier. They had a pact in real life to share with each other if one died while the other one was there, to let them know what they saw. Like they had an interest in the afterlife and trying to prove it. So that actually did happen. Although in real life, his very last words were, I guess this is the last round of pool I'll ever play. And then he died. So, Wyatt's
quite
beside
the observation.
Himself. Yeah, exactly. Captain Obvious. Well, that's what Wyatt said. Captain Obvious. Nice. No. A couple of other continuity issues. As much blood as there was, like Wyatt was covered in blood, but when he was stroking Morgan's forehead, no blood went on.
Yeah. That's kind of like the Ghostbusters when
yeah,
the marshmallow blew
the
up
marshmallow.
and everyone was covered in marshmallow.
Exactly. And then Wyatt's wiping his hands on his shirt and his shirt's still white. Whatever. It's nitpicking shit, but you need to point out that the downsides of this flick as well. So it was just a little weird. Wyatt he's completely lost it. He's destroyed at this point. It's his little brother. He tried to guide him in the right direction and it didn't help. He fucked it up. He thinks he's poison at this point, that anybody near him is going to die. He heads outside in the rain, and he tries to have a quick conversation with God. Why him? Why him? Why Morgan? Josie runs up to him to help, and he just yells at her, "Get away from me." That goes to the point where he just feels he's completely toxic. He's poisoned now, that if she's near him, she's going to die. Everybody's going to die next to him. So she leaves him alone. If I remember correctly, Maddie's involved in that too, and there's another awkward moment, and who cares? So we know what's going to happen. So
Maddie probably cared.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah, she's just looking for the next fix.
Oh, shit. That's true. You know how it is. We all been there, right?
She's out selling ass under a railroad bridge or something.
Come on.
Oh, yeah.
Who hasn't?
That's what she was doing when he met her.
Exactly. But listen, guys, who hasn't sucked a little dick for some laudanum? Come on. All right, let's be honest now. Please. No. Yeah, exactly.
This man.
So we come to the next scene. Morgan's gone. Wyatt's beside himself. That's it. They're leaving town. They've packed up the houses. They've loaded the wagon, and they're done. Okay. This clip that I'm going to have you play, it has two of also my favorite lines in the movie, and both are also used in my house a lot. So, Joe, please roll it.
I want you to know it's over.
Well, bye.
You smell that, Bill? Smells like someone died.
Jesus, Johnny.
Yeah, I mean, bye. That's daily in my fucking house. Okay? On the phone, in person, someone's leaving. Well, bye. And then that smells like someone died. That's just to fuck with people in my house. That's
Jesus,
what we do. I know. And that damn curly chuckle, I fucking love it. Powers Booth is a genius in this role. That little chuckle, and because everything's funny to him, And right before he says that, you hear Ike just let out a big fucking spitball. You can hear it audibly, just whack, So after that little scene, after that little clip, Curly looks at Ike and tells him, you listen, you take Stillwell and finish it. Meaning follow them to Tucson, take care of them at the train station, get it done. So we're getting to the climax, folks. We're almost there. The next scene, we are at the station in Tucson. We see Virgil on the train with the ladies. It's at night. To note, as crazy as this scene is, and I haven't been able to confirm that it's absolutely accurate, but the car number on the train is 5150, which we know from Van Halen is the involuntary. Yeah, we know it's the involuntary hold for psych. Okay, for craziness. I don't know if it was a reference or not. Whatever, but it's cool anyway. So they're on the train. We see Stillwell and Ike, and damn it, I didn't write down the actor's name who plays Stillwell. He's not in the movie much, but he was in Gladiator. He was what's his name's sidekick guy who ran around getting all the senators together and stuff. And he's been in a bunch of movies. He's another good character actor. Bruce, I don't know, whatever. Cool guy. So Stillwell and Ike see them, and they're about to basically shoot through the window or at least board the train and take care of Virgil. Ike decides Virgil is the one he wants. He states, he's mine. Because he wants to cut that pimp heart out, as he stated earlier. So as they start to move, Wyatt comes out of the dark, and he lays waste. The street howitzer does its job, and he just opens Stillwell up. He's basically a sack of meat at that point. He's on the ground. That happens, and Ike immediately goes into survival mode again and drops the gun and starts shitting himself on the ground. And he walks up, Wyatt walks up to Ike, and, with his spur, and I love this fucking move. Like, I absolutely love it. He just uses his spur to basically cut Ike's cheek open, give him that old rat scar on the side of his cheek. And then he lays out the quintessential lines in this movie. I mean, it sums up this movie, and it actually, this is what brings us back to the opening scene at the Mexican wedding when Curly Bill asks, you know his name, Johnny Ringo. Ask Johnny Ringo what the priest said, and roll it, Joe.
All right, Clanton. You called down the thunder, well, now you got it. You see that? It says United States Marshal.
Wyatt, please don't kill me. Please.
Take a good look at him, Ike, because that's how you're going to end up. The Cowboys are finished, you understand me? I see a red sash, I kill a man wearing it. So run, you cur.
Run! Tell all the other curs the line's coming! You tell them I'm coming! And hell's coming with me, you hear? Hell's coming with me!
And I love the music at the end because it's very Road Warrior-like.
Epic.
Epic, and I dig it. I dig it so much. So, so for those who might not know, he calls him a cur and a cur. So C-U-R is the word. It's an old-timey word. It's meant to be used to describe a bad dog or a despicable person. It was used, again, it's old-timey speak back then. It was a word that would have been used at the time. To call somebody a cur.
Around here, a dog, like cur dogs. Like I've heard
really?
that my whole life. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm a sheltered suburban boy from Long Island. Well, I don't know this shit.
It's still spoken in redneck.
All right. That's cool. But, I mean, it's funny. I knew what the word was. I guess maybe my dad called it. No, I'm teasing, but my dad had used it in a sentence or two, so I knew what the word was. But, yeah, I just wanted to give a little definition of that. So now we come to what I have titled on my notes as Murder Montage 1, because that implies there's more than one montage of murder.
There was the fucking montages were plentiful.
Oh,
I didn't remember that about this film.
Yes. So, Murder Montage 1, just to give a little bullet point list, we see there's the horse through the window murder, there's the brothel murder, there's the obligatory horseback murders, there's the opium den murder, which is my absolute favorite.
I would say that's my favorite one.
That is an absolute favorite, where the poor sucker grabs the gun barrel thinking it's an opium pipe, and nope, it ain't. And then there's the hanging murder. They hang a couple of cowboys and tie the sashes around their ankles.
Now, the horseback murder, you ever see stunt work in a movie and it just jumps out at you as like, no, someone really did that, and that there's no way that looked, I mean,
no, that was done.
It's too painful, yeah.
That was as practical an effect as you can get in a movie. You are right. That was old-timey, old-school Hollywood horse riding is what that was.
Oh, God.
Speaking of horses and painful, also that handshake. Ugh.
Oh, I know. That was cringy. That happens that happens in Murder Montage 2, so don't jump ahead, Joe.
Oh, yeah, dude. Oh,
that's Murder Montage 2, Joe. So yeah, I mean, Eric, you're right. And here's the thing: if you look at the cast of this movie, all the extras, all the lesser parts, to a person, they've all been involved in westerns their whole life. Like these people, these folks could ride those horses. They had already done the stunt work. They knew how it was done, and that's why it looks so good. They went out of their way to hire the right people to make this movie in that sense. Because the stuff was great. It was so cool. So we come upon the ambush scene. Another one of my favorite scenes in this movie. It's iconic as far as
this is the
goes.
one where I'm like, okay, come on. This is still fucking like fake.
But guess what? It really happened that way. It's documented that he did this. All right, but let's talk about the scene. Curly Bill, he sets up an ambush to get Wyatt and the boys. They start shooting. The boys are down. They're fucked. They all know that they're done. They're all looking to Wyatt, saying, "Wyatt, you got to do something. What are you going to do? What are you going to do?" Wyatt loads his shotgun and he stands up and he starts wading in the river towards the cowboys. They're all shooting at him and they're missing. This is like the best stormtrooper impersonation I've ever fucking seen. Okay? They are missing him and missing him and missing him. Okay? So you're right. I'm watching this thing every time I watch it and going, all right, this is bullshit. This is bullshit. Right?
It's like, what should I do? Let me walk out in the middle where I have zero protection.
Exactly. And he is saying, first in a low voice, no. And he keeps saying no, and he's getting louder and louder. Curly Bill yells and says he's mine. So the rest of the cowboys stop shooting. Curly Bill comes out and starts shooting at him, and again, impersonates a stormtrooper better than I've ever seen anybody do. He shoots at him. He unloads 2 pistols at him, and he misses every fucking time. We go to the slow motion, which is funny, because I mentioned the director's cut earlier. So the slow motion is pretty slow when he screams no and pulls up the shotgun. It was even slower in the director's cut. They added like 15 seconds to this fucking slow motion, which is dumb. But anyway, he draws the shotgun and he cuts Curly Bill in half. All right. Now, Joe, I go back to this because it is documented from an eyewitness account from the cowboy, from Barnes, played by John Corbett, who's the next one to get shot, that actually happened, that none of them could believe it. Okay. But that's what Wyatt Earp did. And they all fucking missed him. All right. It's like a goddamn Jules and Vincent moment in Pulp Fiction. All right, it's divine intervention, whatever you want to call it. But according to him and other cowboys or other survivors, that shit happened. And
that's just some cool shit to say before you off somebody.
I know exactly. And look, I still find it kind of hard to believe because it was crazy. But in any case, he cuts down Curly Bill. This obviously rallies his boys, and they start shooting up the cowboys as they all scatter, because the cowboys are like, holy fuck, they don't believe this. Johnny Ringo was not at this event. So Barnes, the guy who stated it, he did get shot right away, but he lived for a few days, and that's where he recounted the story and documented it as this really happened. So the ambush is done. They are licking their wounds and regrouping now, right by the river there. And this takes place, so please play this clip.
Did you ever see anything like that before?
Hell, I ain't never even heard of anything like that.
Nothing. Where is he?
Down by the creek, walking on water.
Well, let's hope he's got another miracle up his sleeve. If I know Ringo, he's headed straight for us. If they were my brothers, I'd want revenge too.
No, make no mistake. It's not revenge he's after. It's a reckoning.
Doc, sorry to be in bed. What the hell are you doing this for anyway?
Wyatt Earp is my friend.
Hell, I got lots of friends.
I don't.
Yeah, and I mean, this just shows how much, Wyatt means to Doc and vice versa. This goes back to why, Doc's earlier comment when Wyatt was wondering why he was going to help him out. That's a hell of a thing to say. because they were friends to the end, and they meant a lot to each other. So we get through that. The next scene quickly is the Cowboys on the move. Stagecoach pulls up, and we look inside to see it's the theater troupe, and Mr. Fabian's been shot and killed. It's obviously devastating to Billy Breckenridge, who's there. Ike mentions the two guys who did it, like, so casual because he doesn't give a fuck. But yeah, Fabian's dead. Josie just, he curses them all. She curses them all as cowards, which they are. She doesn't understand the ugliness, blah, 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 but it's sincere. This is a sucky moment. Billy, he's done. He's been Behan and the Cowboys' little sidekick, but he's done with it. He gets on a horse and he leaves. He goes, I can't be a part of this anymore. There's got to be some kind of law. So he goes. Very quickly after that, the team's up on a ridge and they spot the Cowboys through a spyglass. McMasters mentions that there looks to be 30 of them and they're all wearing badges. So it's, quote, legal, but that ain't, that ain't the case. At that point, Doc, he's spitting blood bad. He falls off the horse. He's like completely out of it. So they scoop him up and they head to the nearest ranch that happens to be Henry Hooker's ranch. Hooker was a real man. Henry Hooker actually employed Billy the Kid before Billy the Kid was Billy the Kid. He worked on his ranch back in the day in real life. He's played by Charlton Heston. Again, this just lends to the authenticity that they wanted to bring, because Charlton Heston is a huge actor. He was friends with Mitchum, and wanted to be in the movie, even in this small part, is my understanding. But he had been in a ton of westerns along with other movies, and they wanted him in there to lend some gravitas to the flick. So he's only got a few lines, but he allows them to come on his ranch, water their horses, and let Doc rest. So we see Doc in bed at Hooker's. The coach with the troop arrives. Josie's there. She gets out. Just an interesting little Easter egg is that when the coach is there and Hooker's on the porch talking to them, the guy standing next to him is Chris Mitchum, who's Robert Mitchum's son. He was an actor as well, not as well known, but yes, he's in the flick because his dad was in it. So he I don't think he has a line, but he's standing there. So that was pretty cool. Wyatt and Josie meet. Wyatt apologizes, and Josie just plainly states, "I forgave you the moment you said it," because she understood his torment at that moment. So it's all good. And guess what, boys? What do? They lock eyes again. No kissy yet, but this is number 372. They lock eyes.
He's getting close to taking that mule ride down to Freckle Canyon.
Exactly.
It is in these hills that Juan Valdez and his trusty mule gather coffee beans every morning.
Yes. All right,
bury his mule in the Freckle Canyon.
We are in the home stretch, people, so hang in there, all right? We cut to a scene of a cowboy dragging a body behind him towards the ranch, and we find out it's poor McMasters. It's not explained in the movie. It is in the director's cut how he went out to sort of try to negotiate, and this is what they did to him. But they beat him and kill him. He's beyond recognition. When the boys run up on him, they're repulsed. Wyatt almost throws up. So apparently the damage was pretty bad, though they didn't show it. McMasters is gone. At least he died. He died a good man. The cowboy from a distance tells Wyatt that Ringo wants a one-on-one with him. He wants to settle this man-to-man. Wyatt, I have notes here. He quietly shits himself, but he says, "Yeah, I'll be there. Definitely, he's done. I'll be there." We cut to Ringo telling him, he's telling Ike that once he's done with Earp, that he wants Ike to burn them all, meaning the other guys. So we're talking about Creek and Texas and Doc. It's funny, they keep putting this shit on Ike, but they should know at this point he ain't gonna do shit. Okay, he'll never get any of this done, but they keep asking him to do it. But that's fine. We are now back to a shot of Doc in bed. It's Wyatt and Doc's turn to have a heart-to-heart and just talk about, life and basically, what they mean to each other in a roundabout way. Wyatt laments that he's finally found, what he's looking for, but it's too late. It doesn't matter because he knows he's not going to survive. I mean, they even, he flat out says it, but why don't you roll this clip, Joe?
Makes a man like Ringo, Doc. Makes him do the things he does.
A man like Ringo got a great empty hole right through the middle of him. He can never kill enough or steal enough or inflict enough pain to ever fill it.
What does he need?
Revenge.
For what?
Being born.
Yep. So, just another apt description of the torment that that Johnny Ringo lives. He's definitely messed up. So, Wyatt drops the line, "I can't beat him, can I?" And Doc, as a matter of fact, in his answer is just saying no. He knows that that's just not possible. Doc asks to hold Wyatt's badge because he always wanted to just see what it felt like. Wink, wink. We'll find out in a minute. Wyatt heads out and he talks because he knows it's time. He talks to Hooker, who vows to protect Doc. They want to get to him. They got to go through us. And he's sincere about it because that's the kind of man he is. And from what I read in real life, that's what he was. He was an honorable man. So they are heading to Ringo. The three of them. We got Wyatt and Creek and Texas. They're there. They meet the other cowboys who tell Wyatt where Ringo's waiting. Wyatt basically thanks the two of them. He says goodbye to them. The comment is, "I ain't got the words." Creek says that, and Wyatt, me neither, because they meant a lot to each other. Obviously to back a play like that, revenge ride, and everything else. They're honorable men as well. So, So then we cut to the showdown, which I made a note here, and I mentioned earlier that apparently, or according to history, it never happened. Johnny Ringo killed himself against a tree. He sat at a tree and he shot himself in the head. But we're not sure, but we think that's what happened. But it doesn't matter because, again, it's a movie. So Ringo's leaning against a tree, waiting, and we see Wyatt, stroll up from the shadows and roll it.
Well, I didn't think you had it in you.
I'm your huckleberry. Why, Johnny Ringo, you look like somebody just walked over your grave.
Fight's not with you, Holiday.
I beg to differ, sir. We started a game we never got to finish. Play for blood, remember?
I was just fooling about.
I wasn't. And this time, it's legal.
All right, Lunger. Let's do it.
Say when.
was no danger at all.
Poor soul. You were just too high-strung. I'm afraid the strain was more than he could bear. Oh, I wasn't quite as sick as I made out.
So, yeah, I apologize. There's some dead air there as far as just the music goes, but they were circling each other and such. But that is...
When you're watching the video of it, it helps a little more.
Yeah, just a bit. But it gets the point across. I mean, that's the absolute climactic scene in the movie. It is the showdown we've been waiting for, and it happened like it should have. Doc was a better man. And, you know, because Johnny's torment in the end got to him. He was scared when he saw Doc. It's funny that, so my favorite line in the movie, I'm your Huckleberry, is uttered twice. They use the same clip 2 times. And you never see him say it. Okay. The first time, the camera angle is from behind Doc. And the second time, he's in the shadows. You do not see his mouth move because they added that afterwards. He never said it on set or in either scene when it happened. But I don't care because it's still my favorite line in the movie. So, yeah, he takes care of Johnny. It was a pretty gruesome fucking death, all things considered. The fact that he got him in the head, but it was a headshot that didn't kill him. It was basically a lobotomy. And, you know, he twitched and then finally dropped. Now, from what I read, his self-inflicted gunshot was exactly in that spot. Apparently, they did find him against that tree with that gunshot in his head, and his pistol was in his hand. So it could have been staged, who knows, but again, it didn't happen like that in real life. So, you know, they wrap it up there, and Wyatt says to Doc, let's finish it, and, you know, Doc's got a great line, the last charge of Wyatt Earp and his Immortals. That's a reference to some Greek play or something I should know, but I don't. Then we get what I've titled Murder Montage Part 2, because it's another montage of a lot of murders, a lot of cowboy murders. Yeah, there's horse stunts galore in this. Joe had referenced the one of them. There's a, you know, under the horse's chin shotgun blast. There's lots of shotgun blasts. And as Eric mentioned, the stunt work is amazing. The one that gets me the most, that hurts every time I watch it, is Wyatt shotgunning a cowboy from behind, and the cowboy falls off the horse and lands in a creek. That guy he had to break a collarbone. Like, he landed so hard.
Yeah,
Here's another thing. Have you shot a shotgun?
Yes, I have. And
you're
right.
not going to shoot a fucking shotgun from a horse. It's going to knock you off the horse.
It's going to knock you off the horse, and the horse is going to buck you no matter how many times you've done it with the horse.
It's going to scare the shit out of the
exactly.
horse, too.
No, I agree.
Shoot it under the horse's head.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that particular scene, like I said, that guy had to break a collarbone because there was no pad underneath him. He landed in the rocks, and it's not even like he fell into the creek where the water was a little deep. He landed on the rocks right at the edge. So, you know, that's some great stunt work. So that scene ends with the boys chasing Ike and Behan, and they're ready to shoot. They've got Ike lined up for the shot, and he pulls the sash off and drops it. Because he basically remembers, I see a red sash, I killed a man wearing it. They let Ike go. Ike and Behan both go. Ike died in real life a couple years later in an attempted cattle rustling. So he didn't make it much further after that. I don't know what became of Behan. I didn't pay attention. I think he just continued to be a lawman and a hustler. So, yeah, that finishes that. That's when that handshake takes place, which, yeah, again, is fucking corny, and there was no reason for it, but they had to do it. So that brings us to our closing scene. We see a sign for the Glenwood Sanatorium in Colorado. There was no such place. It was the Glenwood Hotel, where Doc spent his final days in Glenwood, Colorado, but there was not a sanatorium there, but that's fine. Doc's in bed. He's being read his last rites because we know the time is near. Wyatt comes up, and apparently he's been meeting with Doc for quite a while to keep his spirits up and just have conversations with his friend. He keeps it light, trying to play poker, and talks about how Doc's still kicking his ass. But, Doc knows it's time, and he's having none of it. He wants it done. Doc gives him a book. We don't see what it is at first. And, Wyatt gives Doc the book, and we don't see what it is. So Doc's just holding it. He doesn't look at it yet. He states to Wyatt, and again, this demonstrates what they meant to each other, is that you're the only human being in my life that ever gave me hope. So he lived vicariously through Wyatt, because he felt Wyatt was a good man, regardless of what real life tells us or whatever. I mean, he respected him more than anything. He goes into a quick story about being in love with his first cousin, which is
what the fuck?
There was no reason for that. There was, you know what?
Weird ass shit. Even if Will's saying what the fuck, it's weird.
Exactly.
Yeah, it started weird and then it just got weirder.
It's weird. The guy from Tennessee is like, what the fuck?
And he
was 15. I was like, ooh,
for the record,
I'm out.
I've never fucked any of my cousins.
I couldn't bring myself to check.
We waited till they were 18.
Right, but I couldn't bring myself to check if it was real. Because even if it was, there is absolutely zero reason to bring that up. You've built up Doc as this fucking beautiful figure through this whole movie, and then you're going to throw this at us with 30 seconds left in the flick? I'm like, fuck you guys.
No one can be perfect.
But that was rude, man. That was fucking rude.
What's fucked up? Like what really happened between them? Like, this whole shit never took place. Like, they had a falling out and didn't speak, and Wyatt didn't find out he was dead until months later.
Yes, exactly, exactly. But again, romanticize the movie.
Movie magic.
Yeah. Wyatt's final words to Doc are, thanks for always being there, Doc. And in the movie, he was always there for him, so it's appropriate. Mm-hmm. He leaves, and Doc picks the book up and looks, and it's a book. It says, My Friend Doc Holliday by Wyatt Earp. So Wyatt wrote a book, probably telling tales of their exploits, and it's cool. Doc's laying there, his feet are sticking out. He looks down at his feet, and he just says, "I'll be damned. This is funny." And there's a couple of different possible meanings to this. I mean, there was one, that he always thought he died with his boots on, and he didn't have his boots on. But the prevailing theory is that what he meant when he said it, and it's documented that he did say it. He took a swig of whiskey and he said that, and he died. The prevailing theory is that it's funny because of all the ways he thought he would die, because of the shit that he had done. This was not what he thought. He thought he'd die in a gunfight or bit by a rattlesnake or whatever. Something would happen to him violent, and this is how he went, and he thought it was funny, and he passed. That should have been the end of the fucking movie.
Yep, I said that's the end of the movie.
All right,
that's the end of the movie.
for those who haven't seen it, just turn it off when that happens, because this is the worst, most cringeworthy moment in the whole fucking movie. It's the dumbest, most
there's
forced
the one line
shit
that just pisses me off more than anything.
Wait,
else.
Don't say it, because I guarantee it's the same line, and I'll get to it in a second. Right? It starts off with a shot of this theater, right, in a snowy town. The most fake-ass snowman you've ever seen in your life is out front with kids playing it. Nobody could build a snowman like that looks like that. Nobody could, with the realistic arms sticking outside, and so smooth. Bullshit. Fake snowman, right? Josie's just finished up a performance of HMS Pinafore, Gilbert and Sullivan, and she's backstage, and she's taking off her makeup and yakking with somebody. The other person in the room leaves, and in walks Wyatt. And he confesses to her. They're thrilled to see each other. And he then confesses to her, "Look, I have nothing. I have no pride. I have no honor. I have no money." And Joe, this is the line, right? Yeah.
Well, my family's rich.
Right. Don't worry, my family is rich.
Why didn't you say this 2 hours ago when you were on a fucking horse ride? We could have just ended this shit.
Exactly. And secondly, that's total bullshit, because it didn't happen that way, because her family didn't have money. She couldn't even find her family, and if she did, they wouldn't want her, because she was a fucking crazy person.
And a whore.
Exactly. So, listen, Joe, come on. It's a sex worker, and that's as honorable profession as anybody else. We're gonna keep this fucking real and woke, okay? So, anyway, it's late, and I'm so fucking tired. All right, folks, we're at the end. They go outside.
This is when Ludacris comes on. Use
Exactly.
a hoe. Ho, use a
All
hoe.
right.
I
All right.
said that use a hoe.
Okay, Joe. All right. So they go outside, and Wyatt looks at her and says, she says, what do we do now? And he says, we're going to do what I should have done the first time we met. And they grab each other, and they dance to non-existent music in the fucking snow next to the fake snowman. And then he says, and then we'll order room service. And we cut to, roll it, Joe.
Oh,
not gonna,
you mean
yes.
actual?
The power of the cowboy gang was broken forever. Ike Clanton was shot and killed 2 years later during an attempted robbery. Mattie died of a drug overdose shortly after she left Tombstone. Virgil and Allie Earp moved to California, where Virgil, despite the use of only one arm, became a town sheriff. Wyatt and Josephine embarked on a series of adventures. Up or down, thin or flush, in 47 years they never left each other's side. Wyatt Earp died in Los Angeles in 1929. Among the pallbearers at his funeral were early Western movie stars William S. Hart and Tom Mix. Tom Mix wept.
The end, folks. And I have to quickly say that Mitchum's narration, he took way too much joy in letting us know that Mattie died of an overdose.
Yeah.
He was very angry. Like, he was angry at her. Like, see, we told you.
That,
you know,
since Virgil was a sheriff, that anytime a criminal pulled a gun on him, he'd be like, "Don't shoot! I'm one-armed."
You were waiting for that one, huh?
Yes, I was.
Well, that was good. I liked it. Yeah, so in the end, that's the movie. I'll sum it up by saying, again, this is in my top 10 or top 15. I'll continue to watch it anytime it's on. I obviously brought to light, and we as a team brought to light some nefarious shit that took place in this movie, because there are issues. It's not a perfect movie, not even close. And, you know, when we get to scores, we'll see how it pans out. But I dig it just for the quotes, for the bravado, and everything else. So, all right.
Speaking of which, let's rate this motherfucker.
Yeah, there we go. All right.
So, Will, the way we rate this is, it's a 0 to 5 score. You can get decimal points. 5 is perfect. 0 is piece of shit.
And you can go by decimal points in between.
I am a movie critic by trade, and until recently, I got paid to tell you people which movies merely stink and which ones you shouldn't screen near an open flame. Well, I'm putting the burden of lousy movies back on you. It's very simple. If you stop going to bad movies, they'll stop making bad movies. If the movie used to be a TV show, just don't go. After Roman numeral 2, give it a rest. If it's a remake of a classic, rent the classic.
Tell them you want stories about people, not $100 million of stunts and explosives. People, it's up to you. If the movie stinks, just don't go.
If the movie stinks, just don't go.
You love me. You really love me.
It stinks. It stinks. It stinks.
Are you not entertained?
3.6.
No explanation? Why you're going to go with that?
Just the overall campiness, I think, is the handshake is really knocks off a point.
Okay.
And the Freckle Canyon. That actually might bump my score up if it wasn't attached to all the shit plot.
I don't know, man. It was good. I mean, you know, Val Kilmer made that damn movie, and like I said, I'm sorry for shitting on Kurt Russell all these years. It wasn't that bad.
But again, like I said, we've sort of come to a meeting of the minds on that, so I get it.
Yeah.
All right. So, Eric.
My rating on this guy, let's see. I enjoyed it. The thing I thought it did really well was it was tense as shit, man. Like, those shootout sequences were really tense. Stunt work was really intense. So, yeah, I was a fan. I'd give it a solid It's a solid 4.0.
All right.
Okay.
Excellent.
I
Joe?
am going to do my thing I do here, which is Babylon about why this movie should be what it is, and then I throw a curveball at you. But I'm giving Doc Holliday a 5. I'm giving the Freckle Canyon itself a 5, along with the eyes. And I'm going to give the rest of this movie about a 3. It's a good movie, but it could use some improvement.
All right, that's also, I completely respect that. It's funny because again, I love this movie. I can't say enough how much I love this movie. My watching it twice this week and taking the notes might have knocked it a peg or two down. I'm still going to watch it anytime it's on, like I said. But I am, just to be the top dog here in my own eyes anyway. Our high rating was a 4. I'm going with a 4.1. Which for a movie in my top 10 is actually on the low side. But, I get the flaws in it. I understand the flaws in it, but there's too many good things. There's too many important things for me. Again, the quotes that are used in the family on a regular basis, things like that. That's very important to me. And that factors into my score. So 4.1.
Nice. All right, guys. Let's plug some shit up here. Will, you got anything to plug?
Just Surprise Me, which is basically this show, but substitute Eric with a foul-mouthed other guy.
Can we do the other way around? RJ gets shit on so much.
He does. I can't even do it. It's
I kind of feel bad, but he would just tell me something terrible.
Yeah, he's the Billy Breckenridge on the show. All they ever
that
did
little
was make
sister
fun
boy.
of him. Yeah.
That sister boy.
Exactly.
Yep. Doug, plug Doug.
Plug. All right. Well, Just Surprise Me as well. So I'm always excited to do that show. And 37 Effects for your Fat Guy Little Coat and soon to be Tombstone treble boost. See, get it? That's where the tie-in comes. My next pedal is going to be the Tombstone pedal treble boost, and it will have a direct reference to my favorite line in that movie, somewhere on the pedal. So I'm excited. That's going to be coming out in about a month. 37effects.com, the word 30, the number 7, fx.com. Thank you.
Eric.
Oh, yes, sir. artofericpabone.com. artofericpabone.threadless.com for your t-shirts, and artpal.com/artofерicpabone for your fine art prints, canvases, and framed pieces. Hit me up if you need a custom commission. Shoot me a direct message and we'll work something out.
And, of course, it hasn't been mentioned yet, but Just Surprise Me.
Yes.
That's also a podcast I do. And some pedals, like my pedals, all that good shit. Join the Facebook group. We got a Masters of the Cinematic Universe.
We got a nice growing. We got a nice growing group here. We just got to get more active.
Yep.
We promise to be more active, and we would love for you to be more active. Drop some shit. Let us know what you like, what you don't like, and then have some fun. If you got a movie clip you want to throw in there or a recommendation of something we might want to do it.
Or
throw it out there for us.
Be a guest.
Yeah, exactly.
Eric, what movie do we got coming up next?
Oh, that's a good question. Jesus, I'm really excited about this one, guys. We are going to tackle one of my favorite movies of all time. So that is Star Wars: A New Hope. So we will be joined by my brother Ryan, special guest, and we're gonna dig into it, man. It's gonna be a long one. I'm sure of it.
Yep, and I'm sure if you stay to the very end of the episode, you might get a special surprise.
You just may.
That's what you call it? A special surprise.
Yo, it's special, all right.
Yeah, it certainly is. It's special in a whatever.
Let's just say I would not tell a lie.
Oh God. It's special in that Ringer, the Ringer movie way, right? That's
yeah, I'm like Johnny Knoxville. I'm Mr.
No,
Knoxville.
I don't know. No, that's not what I'm not. I'm talking about some of the other cast. But anyway, let's move on.
Let's just say, you guys aren't. Well, Eric's from Florida. I'd be a bag boy at Publix.
Yep.
He gets that joke.
I do.
So once again, guys, thank you for everything.
Yes,
Join
thank
the
you
Facebook
so much.
group. It's not us that make this show. It's you.
Yeah. We love you all.
Lights.
Camera.
Fuck off.